Here's the tale of the daily med fill. Same old pharmacy, same old bill, but those prices kept rising higher still.
Till the savings wrangler rode in, cool as can be. Tap Good RX, saving massively.
No plan? Don't matter none. Up to 80% off. Deals are done.
Discounts hitting harder than Ma's chili. Dang. That one little app does all the rest.
Save time and money on prescriptions.
Check Good RX. Good RX is not insured.
Air Comfort Service, heating, cooling, and insulation. Weather.
Partly sunny skies, kind of hot, moderate humidity this afternoon, and nothing more than a spot thunderstorm. Don't even be concerned about it. 95 for the high, 68, clear skies tonight. Thursday, instant replay, the exact same thing, 95. But the blocky pattern breaks down late Thursday night and Friday with scattered showers and thunderstorms. 85 for the high on Friday. This is 97.1 FM Talk. Chief Meteorologist Dave Murray.
This hour of the Mark Reardon Show is sponsored by Gamma Tree Experts. Your trees deserve the best care. Call Gamma Tree Experts. This is the Mark Reardon Show on 97.1 FM Talk.
All right, here we go. Trying to get settled here on a Wednesday afternoon. It's pretty nice out there. Sue, do you agree? It's not that humid. It's a bearable.
Disgusting out there. I
didn't think it was that bad. Wait a second. You think it's way hot out there?
Yes, but I was out in the yard and trying to fix things and running around. I thought it was hot.
Well, when I first let the dog out this morning, I'm like, oh, there's a little chill in the air. I felt a little chill in the air, and then went out. Yeah, I did. It was like 60 in the low 60s. Do you live in a different country right now?
Well, I get up really early, and I thought if I can still wear this, that it's not cold. It still feels underlying warm.
Yeah, well, it is. I mean, we're still, I think, around 92 or something like that when we're going to record the high temperature. I just think, it's less of a dew point in humidity. But I'll go by you if you've been outside, because I have not been outside that much today. I let the dog out a couple of times, and that was it. The puppy has, we took him to the vet this morning. I've never heard of this before. So you guys tell me if you've heard of this before. Ethan, I can't remember. You have a dog or not?
But back at home, my family does, but I don't personally right now.
You've been around dogs.
Yes.
So we take him to daycare at No Leash Needed, and it's great because he works out all his energy. And then they sent me a picture a couple of days ago, and they say he's got a puppy wart, like on the inside of his lip. And apparently these things are contagious. Have you ever heard of that, like a puppy wart?
Nope.
Okay, me neither. But it's real. So I took him to the vet this morning. He weighed in at 42 pounds. He was he was 37, like 4 weeks ago. So he's getting up there. But she had to she called it crushing it, actually. It just looked like this white little dot inside of his mouth, like next to his teeth, on his gum line, if you will. And apparently this is something like if the dogs, drink from the same water bowl or something like that, it's contagious. I had never heard of it before, and I've had dogs my whole life, so I was not familiar with that at all. Sue's doing the show from at her residence this afternoon, so you don't need the blanket here in the studio. I don't even know, Fred. I'll be honest with you. I'm not even sure where to start here because there's so much stuff that we have, and there's so many things that keep happening, and the reaction on the part of the legacy media and Jimmy Kimmel. I mean, there are people out there. I'm like, I really do. And I think the listeners know this, and you guys know me pretty well. I try to look at these stories from a variety of angles and different lenses, because I know that I'm prone to see things through my lens. We all are, right? That's just kind of human nature. But how anyone could listen to the information from the last couple of days, really the last week. I mean, we kind of knew the motive for the shooter a week ago today when we were reporting on all of this. It was unfolding this very hour, 1 week ago today. Oh, then there's questions. Oh, it looks like his family is MAGA. They're all Republicans. There's never been anyone in any American family who has broken away from the mainstream members of their family and had political differences, right? That's never happened. So he's instantly tagged with being, someone that's on the right and not the left. And, both sides have to dig in. Look, I'd like the truth to come out. And I think a fair amount of the truth has come out already. This guy was a radicalized lefty who was involved with someone who was trans and a furry, by the way. Are you familiar with furries?
Well, I watched a CSI episode years ago that had a furry convention on it, so I kind of get it. You dress up in the the costumes, the animal costumes.
So this is like a real thing. And Fred, I sent you this piece by Kara Dansky. Kara Dansky does something called the Turf Report for Substack. And, you know, I'm a big fan of, I'm a big fan of the Free Press and Substack. And Turf, of course, is what J.K. Rowling is. Yeah, I think some people accept the moniker and say, hey, this is who I proudly am. And other people use it maybe in a derogatory way, but it's trans exclusionary radical feminist. That's what, you know, Turf stands for. So Kara writes this piece in Substack, and this is from today. She says this should probably be labeled not safe for work, although the information here is all public domain. First, if you're interested in some great commentary about the state of things today, she kind of guides people into a couple of different pieces that are on Substack. And then I have to play this because she points this out. And this is really, really interesting because there have been things that have happened on Capitol Hill that are, you know, somewhat baffling. Ted Cruz got into it with Caitlin Collins, and that was fascinating as well. What is the, Fred, I should know this, and I know you're going to say it's just Mazie, but what is, here it is. This is Kash Patel with Mazie Hirono. All right, so Mazie Hirono is one of the most annoying members of the United States Senate. She's from Hawaii, and she's always one of those people that when they do hearings or judicial confirmations, just makes me want to throw up in my mouth just a little bit. But this is fascinating. Listen to what she said to Kash Patel yesterday, and we'll come back and see how many people kind of notice this.
You are now requiring applicants to be able to do a certain kind of pull-ups, which a lot of women cannot because of physiological differences.
Whoa, hang on. Women can't do them because of physiological differences. What are you talking about? That is transphobic as all get out, Mazie Hirono. How dare you point out the differences between biological men and biological women, especially because you were one that voted against the Protection of Women in Sports Act, which passed earlier and was sent to the president, and he signed that bill in front of all those kids that day. So that I found that very interesting, right? And a lot of people are pointing that out. So back to the column here, Kara's column in Substack. This is someone who's on the political left. She goes, as regular readers know, I am on the political left. I consider myself to be ideologically left of the Democratic Party, but I've always been a registered Democrat, except for a few years I was registered Green. I'm TERF, hence the TERF report, because that's what her Substack's called. Most of my friends are more mainstream lefties, though that has changed over the past 10 years or so. So when I refer to my lefty friends, I'm doing so with affection. There are some things we on the left need to talk about. And she says, typically when I put a lot of work into a post, I put part of it behind a paywall because Substack essentially is my sole source of income. Today, I'm making an exception because I think it's time for the mainstream left to know about furries. I think it's time for the mainstream right to know about furries because I don't know much about them either. And she says, this post about furries is being sent to all subscribers of Substack. It's free. It's shareable. Charlie Kirk has been murdered, and it is being reported that the suspect was in a known relationship with a man who identifies as trans and a furry. TERFs, I can't believe I'm saying this on the radio right now, right? TERFs have known about furries for a long time, but it has been very hard to talk with our lefty friends and family members about the topic because we're aware that when we do so, we sound crazy. But we're not the crazy ones here. Furry is a thing, and it's time for the mainstream left to talk about it. People tend to form opinions based on what they hear in the media. Most people on the political left probably consume a lot of the New York Times, the Washington Post, MSNBC. These people will likely have not heard of furries and violence or furries generally, and probably have no idea that the man who allegedly killed Charlie Kirk was in a relationship with a man who calls himself trans and a furry. Now, I didn't know the furry angle until I started reading this. Apparently, it's there. So she says, I spent a fair amount of time chatting with my friends, conservative and liberal, this week about how if I were going to start explaining the phenomenon of furries to my lefty friends, they'll think I'm nuts. But we have to be able to talk about this stuff, not because it's particularly fun to do, but because it's real and it needs to be dealt with. So she even says, I understand the tendency of people on the left to dismiss this stuff as fringe right conspiracy theories. I promise you it's not. All you have to do is Google it. So with that in mind, if you Google it, she points out that there are people out there that say furry culture has grown from an obscure subculture into a recognizable global phenomenon. Whether misunderstood or celebrated, the world of furries is rich in creativity and connection and self-expression. So essentially, it's, and she kind of goes through, there's a post out there of, Sue, in case you're interested, some tips to get started. If you're curious about furry fetishism, here's tips. Develop your fursona. A fursona is your alter ego within the furry world. Consider what animal best represents you or excites you. Are you playful like a fox, Sue? Are you loyal like a dog? Or are you mysterious like a panther? You decide that, and then you find your community. Furry communities are welcoming spaces where people share tips, costumes, and experiences. So basically, and this is what, she says in the column, the gist is that it's a fetish involving being sexually aroused at the idea of being an animal. And she says that it's not dissimilar from something called AGP, which is autogenophilia, which is a fetish in which a man is sexually aroused at the thought of himself as a woman. And she points out in the column that, this is not being hidden either. There's a publication called Redux, feminist publication that's published story after story about men with this fetish being allowed to participate in women's sports and being held in women's prisons and vulnerable women. This is something that J.K. Rowling goes, on about quite a bit. She says, believe me, I don't particularly want to know about any of this stuff either, but here we are. And she goes back into some of the history because apparently even in 2014, Vox, which is an online magazine, ran an article that said 9 questions about furries you were too embarrassed to ask. I've heard about furries over the years. I've even heard some of this stuff slips into elementary schools with some of these kids, but it's nuts. And she goes on and on and on. And basically, I think the end here is, she says, what does this have to do with the killing of Charlie Kirk? The suspect in the case is a man named Tyler Robinson, I don't like to mention the name, who lived with a man, Lance Twiggs, who calls himself both a furry and trans. The phrase, notices bulge, OWO, what's this, was etched into a spent casing from the fatal shot. OWO, or I guess it could be 0W0. I think it's OWO, but the way she describes it is it's an emoji of a face with the O's as the eyes and the W as a mouth or nose. It's associated with furry culture. Another casing was etched with, we've heard this, hey, fascist catch, right? Now, she says that, this is stuff that the furry group itself is saying that there's a high correlation between trans and furry. And the group is overtly saying it wants to decrease stigma regarding a fetish for becoming sexually aroused at the thought of oneself as an animal. I mean, this is just crazy. And, then she lists all the stuff that we found out yesterday in the text message exchange. So you have everything from that reporting to the ABC reporter yesterday being very romantic in his description of the suspect in his first court appearance. It was just absolutely bizarre. He's made an apology. I'll have some of that here this afternoon. But I did want to educate you on furries because I read that this afternoon. I thought, my God, what in the world? Where are we with some of this stuff, right? I mean, if you don't think a mental illness is part of the equation here, I don't really know how to guide you any further. Brian Kilmeade is coming up here this afternoon in just a couple of minutes. We're going to talk with, who else we got here? Oh, I know we have Eric Schmitt this afternoon, Senator Schmitt, who, I think he's been very emotional about some of this stuff, and he hasn't done any local media. We'll have Steve Koonin from Stanford's Hoover Institution about some climate stuff this afternoon. One of my favorite political insiders, Josh Kraushaar, at 5:32. We're off and running here for a Wednesday afternoon edition of the Mark Reardon Show.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
Well, if you're just headed out, it's not a bad start to the afternoon. Now, we look good. If you're taking westbound 70 out of downtown, it's a little bit slow at the Stan Musial Veterans Memorial Bridge. Some moderate volume at Jennings Station. Then it looks fine until you get to about Highway A. It's slow from Lake St. Louis Boulevard out through Highway A. Now, 6440, the usual volume, and that's Kings Highway out past McCausland. But eastbound is slowing as you head toward Grand. And I don't have a report of why that is. I just see the slow go. It's probably a stall. Southbound 170 is slowing at Olive. We had an incident there that they are trying to get off to the right shoulder. And southbound 270 has slow pockets. It's mainly from Page down through Doherty Ferry, and then things open up. And out west, 64 looks a lot better than 70. No delays out that way, just some moderate volume. So nothing too terrible. I'm Sue Thomas with traffic on 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
All right, let's talk about Banner Construction because they can transform your home inside and out. They've been in business since 1993, doing great work here in St. Louis. I've become pretty close with Bill Kaufman and the team, Sam P. They have been doing great stuff in St. Louis, and they've been awesome sponsors of mine throughout the years. Now, they're a top siding and window contractor. If you want to upgrade your home's exterior, with the aesthetic and the energy efficiency that premium siding like James Hardie Fiber Cement siding affords you, this is the time to get on the horn. These are big projects. They take a little while. So you get on the horn with the team right now about some Hardie products or maybe some Pella replacement windows and doors. They're going to get over to your home. They'll do the in-home design consultation. You're going to greenlight it. I know you will. You're going to go forward with them. But the project's going to take just a little while, which is maybe even more of a reason that you have to trust experience like Banner, because you do have issues with supply chain stuff. They're going to guide you through all of it. And in the end, you will have an amazing customer service experience. Get started today by calling 314-569-1050 or the website bannerconstruction.com.
When you ride, you feel the freedom of the open road. But when the road turns dangerous and an accident happens, the pain and confusion can be overwhelming. If you're injured in a motorcycle accident, you need someone who understands. At Kaufman Townsley, we're your St. Louis neighbors. We live here, work here, and we know how important your recovery is. We'll fight for you so you can focus on healing. Kaufman Townsley, real people, real results. Call 314-500-5000.
Attention St. Louis Medicaid residents in need of care at home. If you need assistance with daily activities, you can receive in-home care from a loved one that lives with you and they get paid. Through Medicaid, Freedom Care allows you to choose who provides your care at home in St. Louis, and they get paid weekly. Available to eligible Medicaid members in St. Louis. Call now to check your eligibility. It can be your daughter, son, a close relative, or trusted friend helping you with cooking, transportation, laundry, and other activities in your own home. You get the help you need, and your caregiver gets paid. Freedom Care has over 7,000 five-star Google reviews and is a leading choice in St. Louis for in-home care. If you have Medicaid and want to receive great care from a loved one, go to freedomcare.com, or for faster service, call 314-597-1749. 314-597-1749. That's 314-597-1749.
Freedom Care, we're here for you.
This is Kyle Bush with Cringe Financial Group. For over 6 decades, we've helped St. Louis families and businesses plan with purpose and live with confidence. How many times have you changed jobs over the years? If you're like many professionals, you may have left behind one or more 401ks. Unwatched, unmanaged, and potentially your largest retirement asset. Just because it's out of sight doesn't mean it should be out of mind. Let's make sure it's working as hard for your future as you are. Your goals, our mission, start today at kfgadvisors.com.
Securities offered through Raymond James Financial Servicing. Member FINRA/SIPC. Prince Financial Group is not a broker-dealer.
Back to Mark Reardon, because someone's got to say it out loud. 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it.
I mean, that's Jimmy Kimmel, who should know better, especially after yesterday. But this narrative from the left that it's someone is to the right of MAGA. That's who this kid is right now. It continues, and it's just baffling to me. And I guess they get away with it because, Kimmel's out there saying it. They spread it on MSNBC. Brian Kilmeade is back with us, the co-host of Fox and Friends. You hear him every morning here on 97.1 FM Talk. How about the effort there, Brian, to still keep the narrative the way they started it last week, even when presented with ample information that that's not someone who was to the right of MAGA or, blew Charlie Kirk's head nearly off because he wasn't conservative enough?
Well, I mean, this is why when you go up to people that maybe you don't hang out with mostly, or you meet a group of people and they say things like, oh, Trump was in bed with Russia. That's how he won the first election. Or we all know that Hunter Biden, that wasn't Hunter Biden's laptop. And you go, what are you talking about? It's absolutely his laptop. And they just go, what do you mean? It's not his laptop. So they really don't know what you're talking about. So there's going to be people now. I think Jimmy Kimmel knows better. But he knows his audience is not going to flip and go anywhere else. They're going to listen to him, and they're going to go on ABC News, and they're not going to, maybe some of them are going to go, yeah, this guy was just from a conservative family and didn't like Charlie Kirk. Really? Because he was gay? That they're going to come up with another scenario. These MAGA people trying desperately to look like it's not one of them. Number one, what's them? You mean conservative? So not one of them. He's not one of them. Do an ounce of research and you know it. My fear is My fear is, Mark, that they're not going to do an ounce of research. Jimmy Kimmel will be their news source, even though we only get to like a 1.4, which is pathetic for a national network show. A 1.4, that's barely breaking 1 million people. I think, Fox does that at 9 a.m. So actually, we do better than that on Fox and Friends. But people are just going to watch that. That's their late night show. They go, yeah, that he definitely is not. He definitely was a conservative shooter. Just like they say that the guy that burned down the governor's mansion in Pennsylvania, well, that's a Democrat. They went after him too. Well, no, that was a anti-Semitic, pro-Palestinian lunatic.
Yeah, that's
that tried
right.
to kill the Jewish governor, not the Democratic governor.
Look, I have Senator Schmitt's coming on with me here in about an hour, Brian, and he had a great rant yesterday with Kash Patel at a hearing talking about and just listing off topic after topic, incident after incident. Have there been examples of right-wing extremism? Of course there have, right? But I mean, there's a pattern that has developed here that the legacy, I could not believe, I don't know if you saw the exchange with Senator Cruz and Caitlin Collins on CNN, but they're insisting like they're covering this as if there's some mystery still to what the motivation was, even after seeing the text messages read yesterday at that news conference. So I feel like I'm missing something here, Brian. What the hell's going on?
Yeah, I mean, we're still looking for the motive. I'll give you the motive. The motive is, and I'm doing the 5 tonight, so that is our A block. So let's see if I have the motive. Robinson asked his partner if he had done it. The partner asked Robinson if he'd done it. I had enough of his hatred. Some hate can't be negotiated. So there you go. He had enough of his hatred. Why'd you do it? He had enough of his hatred. Some hate can't be negotiated. Did he do it? I had the opportunity to take out Charlie Kirk, and I'm going to take it. The partner reacted with shock, asking if he was joking. You weren't the one who did it, right? The partner said. I am. I'm sorry, said Robinson. What is the motive? I had enough of his hatred. Some hate can't be negotiated. So I like Caitlin Collins. I've met her when she was at the Daily Caller. I think she's just fine. But that's an example of I'm not going to get the answer. I mean, she's too smart not to know this. Sometimes you miss a story. A lot of times you'll say stuff to me, and the premise, I'll go, well, that's new to me. It doesn't mean I'm lazy or dumb. I missed it. But you can't miss that. That's not something you miss. You watch that 45-minute press conference, and she's the Washington correspondent. So you're not like, well, I just host my show. I missed it during the day. I'm dropping my kids off. I'm coaching softball. No, you're at Washington. You're at the White House all day.
Yeah, I'm baffled by it. I really am. Now, did you have any other takeaways from what we learned yesterday? There's some things that are still confusing to me. For example, and I understand, and I hope that this is true, that the roommate is cooperating and, all this stuff has been handed over to the authorities. But then when the shooter says something about the casings being etched, wouldn't he have some questions about that? Wouldn't the natural question be, hey, what are you doing with those bullets? Right?
Right. Unless you have a bullet room where you just keep bullets and you work alone whittling bullet casings. So he says, basically he laments the fact that he only shot one time and those other bullets are in the gun. They're going to notice the other bullets in the chamber and I'm really going to get screwed. All right. They're going to really make the most of that. And I'm going to get trouble from my father because I have lost my grandfather's gun. Not I'm going to prison and getting the death penalty. Don't tell me this guy is grounded in anything close to reality.
Yeah, no, there's a big disconnect, yourself, right?
So
yeah.
Let's say you and I have a temper. We know that if we do something, whether it's a bad marriage or a bad relationship or you hate your boss, if we do something severe, my image is it worth spending the rest of my life in prison? And that's the consequences that keeps our listeners in line and you and I in line. This guy that went for the president in Butler, the guy that went for the president at his golf club,
Mm-hmm.
and this guy that killed Charlie Kirk has no sense of the consequences, or they fundamentally believe they're martyrs, but they don't. These are not hardened people. You're not getting a gang member that's been arrested 14 times, like that mutant that killed that woman that Ukrainian woman in Charlotte. You're getting a guy that probably never had a hard day of work in his life. He is now in solitary or for his own protection in leg irons in prison. I mean, do you think for a second if he could image that that he would have done it. I don't think so. But he's not in the real world, yet he had a near perfect score on his college board.
Right. Yeah. Good
And
grades.
he could have went to any college.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's it is baffling, especially that part where he seemed to indicate that he thought unless I'm misinterpreting this, if he had somehow gotten away with the gun, that they would not have discovered him, that all the text messages that he's sending wouldn't have eventually been tracked. But he seemed to be under the impression that he could have kept this a secret somehow if they didn't have the gun, the weapons, and the fingerprints.
Right. He said if it wasn't for that, if they didn't get the gun, they wouldn't have got me. What about the video? Do you not think in a school like that, there's no motion detected video that goes on when people walk by? I'm sure he scouted the place. At some point, he had to be in that building. It's hard to believe that someone would snipe that far and show up one day. But I guess he does know the school. He drives a few hours, shows up. He goes right up that staircase, has a change of clothes, goes in there. They were able to see his knee prints, his footprints, his Converse shoe prints. He grabs the banister on the way down. There's full video. And because of the video's out, his parents see him. And his parents see him and he's think, well, the gun did me in. Well, the gun didn't help. And they did find it immediately. How do they do it? Because they had you on video. They knew where you were walking. So they followed your footsteps.
Yeah, how he wouldn't know that is there's a lot of things here. Maybe we'll never find out. What is your opinion? I got some mixed feelings here on the people, and there are a lot of them, who are being fired right now for saying stupid stuff online. Now, I would make the distinction, I believe, between the barista at Starbucks and someone who runs, a college or is a professor somewhere or a teacher or a, EMT or something like that. There've been plenty of those people weighing in, cheering on death. But thoughts on that? Because now the right's being accused of cancel culture.
Well, I don't know if the right is being accused because I don't know if people are calling for people to be fired. Maybe there is a few people. But this is, for example, I interviewed the nurse that went up to the doctor,
right,
who was celebrating that Charlie Kirk had said, he goes, "You're a doctor and you're celebrating the assassination of Charlie Kirk?" And he laughed. And he goes, "Yeah, of course, he's a bad guy," and whatever he had to say. So she didn't stop. And they suspended them both. She did our show, got a lawyer.
Yeah, I saw it.
They told her, by the way, don't expect to come back. So when people say she was going to get hired back, that's a lie. So don't expect to come back. And they quickly reversed it. So no one called for her to fire her. She wanted to get her job back. If that guy got fired, it's his fault. I guess you can go case by case. For example, the Texas State kid that walked into a Charlie Kirk vigil and started kicking down the American flag and mocking the way he was shot in the neck. If he gets suspended from school, if the other woman says some whitey got assassinated, what is the big deal? Screaming that they arrested her. Is that cancel culture? Or is that people on the campus
No, there's consequences. There's no doubt. Absolutely. All right, what's coming up on Sunday? You got any of that planned yet?
Yeah, we're going to go live, a lot of it. We have a couple of things that we're working on. We're still putting it together. I'm going to wait probably till Friday morning because we're going to go live on Sunday. And I just got to see, because the Charlie Kirk Memorial is Sunday.
Right.
It's going to go about 4 hours. We're going to get people pouring out of there. So I got to figure out what I'm going to do and if I'm going to do more than one subject. So if I do, I think it's a national. You tell me. I think it's a national story, this Mamdani thing, and the fact that he still got a 20-point lead, and that no Democratic leader up until the Democratic governor endorsed him has really endorsed him. So I'm thinking about doing that and seeing that as a national story. And I'm probably going to go Charlie Kirk centric.
Yeah.
He's been on our Sunday show 5 times alone. I've done 3 of his events. I've been asked to speak at 3 of his events. My first one was 2018. We've been in touch ever since. So I couldn't have been more impressed with who he was and couldn't be more horrified about the way he died.
Yeah. One Nation with Brian Kilmeade, Sunday nights, 9 p.m. here in St. Louis. Brian, have a great week.
Go get him one.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
Well, good afternoon. Now, it depends on where you are, which I suppose is normal, as to how the commute looks. Now, downtown, if you're headed into Illinois, there's a little bit of volume on the Poplar Street Bridge, but it's not bad. 44, though, is pretty slow in front of Arch Grounds, and that's in both directions. 55 is slowing south of Arsenal down through Rebus Barracks. It was a little slow south of Butler Hill as well, but then things open up. Now, southbound 270, it's mainly moderate volume, but it stretches from Page down through Doherty Ferry and then really all the way through 21. There was an accident reported on westbound 70 near Jennings Station Road. A little bit of volume there, and west of Bryan in pockets out through the 70 split. Now, 64 out west, it's not that bad, but there is some moderate volume west of 94 and again at the 70 split. The inner belt still a little slow as you head toward it's right there in the Page area. That's all due to an earlier incident. This report brought to you by Jerry Kelly Heating and Air Conditioning. I'm Sue Thomas with traffic on 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Jerry Kelly swings next day installs no matter how late you call. And because they work later every day, they're faster when your equipment just needs fixing too.
That's MVP material.
Yep, simple fix or a full install. Nobody gets you comfortable faster.
JerryKelly.com.
Oh, let me take you back to April when the Dow was at like 38,000 and people were panicking. I might have been a little panicking at that point too. Well, the market's rebounded, but you don't know what's going to happen. Look, we have a rate decrease from the Fed today. You still have some economic jitters. I want to guide you into another great event with Thomas Helbig and the team from the Retirement Advisor Group. We do 5 of these events where we get together in a room at the St. Louis Hilton Plaza Frontenac, and you just get to meet Thomas and the team and what he's all about and how his philosophy is different than the major brokerage houses. And it's really something that should work for you. And I think you're going to be curious about it. And if you just want to check it out, there's no obligation. You can always go in one-on-one if you feel more comfortable. But this is a group setting, and we do 5 a year. And the final event of the year is 2 weeks from tomorrow night. It's October 2nd, 6:30 p.m. If you call 314-993-9494, we'll get you a seat. We'll save it for you. And it's an easy in and out. If you got something else to do that night, it's about 90-minute commitment all in from the time you sit down. So don't worry about a big time commitment. You can also register online at retirementkey.com for the official financial planners of this show. Thomas Helbig in the Retirement Advisory Group.
I'm Ultima Morgan of Morgan & Morgan. Every time one of my children started driving, it was terrifying. I am quite aware of the dangers being on the road. Thousands of accidents happen across the country. We see it every day. These families' lives will be changed in an instant. We fight for these families as if they were our own. We've become America's largest injury law firm by winning cases just like these. If you've been injured in a car accident, call us.
Injured? Dial pound law or visit forthepeople.com for an office near you.
If you suffer from burning, tingling, or numb feet, pay special attention as we discuss neuropathy with Dr. Patton, D.C. Doctor, what is neuropathy?
Peripheral neuropathy is nerve damage to the feet and legs.
What are the symptoms?
The symptoms are numbness, burning, tingling, pain, and loss of balance.
Is neuropathy treatable?
It's absolutely treatable, and we have amazing results.
If you have burning, tingling, numbness, coldness in your feet or hands or balance issues, call us at Comprehensive Integrated Health today for a nerve damage screening. The screening will tell if you're at risk for serious complications and if you're a candidate for our cutting-edge treatment program. Don't wait until your symptoms are so severe nothing can be done. End-stage neuropathy leaves people confined to walkers, wheelchairs, and even amputations. The first 10 callers will receive a free nerve damage screening. Call 636-538-5188. That's 636-538-5188 for your free nerve damage screening. 636-538-5188.
Ever felt a nagging toothache or maybe a sensitive spot? It's frustrating, right? But don't let that worry hold you back. This is Dr. Michael A. White. I am dedicated to providing gentle, affordable dental care that puts your comfort first. Our experienced team and advanced technology will ensure a smooth, relaxing experience. It's just common sense. Don't hurt the patient. Call my office at 314-270-8552. That's 314-270-8552.
It's time for a $98 AC tune-up.
This portion of the show is sponsored by Jerry Kelly Heating and Air.
Real talk, today's issues. 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Of all the things I can't believe that I'm talking about a week after this assassination is still legacy media folks like Caitlin Collins and others questioning about whether we have a motive.
We don't have a motive yet. We don't know yet. We're waiting. Obviously, we've heard what the governor's had to say, what the FBI director said today.
Come on, we don't have a motive yet.
We know
we don't have a motive yet.
What's
really?
happening with
Really, that's CNN's position.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, the audio was a little hinky-jinky there, but Ted got into it, Senator Cruz, with Caitlin Collins last night, and I have some good audio from Scott Jennings as well, because the CNN panel did the same thing. It's quite fascinating, watching the media try to do this from the very beginning. I played you the Jimmy Kimmel bite. Video games are being blamed as well. Hans Mahncke is with us this afternoon to talk about some of this stuff. He is an in-house counsel at the global business industry firm, author of Swift Boating America, Exposing the Russiagate Fraud from the Steele Dossier to the FBI's Crossfire Hurricane Investigation. Hans, thanks for coming on here and joining us on 97.1 FM Talk. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
It'd be one thing to maybe carry on with this this narrative about the motive, up until midday yesterday. But I think we got some pretty strong confirmation about the motive during the reading of the text message exchanges yesterday, didn't we?
We did, and on top of that, we also have the criminal complaint where the father is cited and various other people. And over, and as you say, the text messages are absolutely unambiguous. It's about hate. Robinson claims that Charlie was full of hatred, and verbatim, he said, some hate can't be negotiated out. So he basically is saying, this guy is so hateful, someone has to do something about it. The father confirmed it. Over and over, this is about the picture that was painted of Charlie Kirk, a totally false picture, but a very pervasive picture. I mean, all the media, everyone was piling on, even before the assassination. And as you say, sadly, they continued after.
So get into the, because a lot has been said, and I'm going to be honest with you, this whole video game culture thing, I do not understand. But there are some things that I think were etched on the bullets and things that did relate to his, I don't even know what you call it, dark hole, deep fascination with this subculture in the video game world. So what is there to that? And I know that you mentioned in the column that you wrote about this is that, there have been people out there, including the governor of Utah, who have blamed radicalization through video games and Reddit, etc.
Yeah, that's right. Now, when I heard that on Sunday, that really bothered me, and that's how sort of the column happened. Now, the bullet casings have different etchings. So one is Helldivers 2, which is a video game. Another one is the sort of arrows, which has something to do with Antifa. Another one is this furry stuff with which apparently has to do with transgenderism. I've never come across that. So I don't think we can put too much into that. It's certainly kind of all over the map, but obviously all kind of in the more leftist direction. But they did pick up on this video game thing and say, the video games caused it. I'm old enough to know how this is. This has been around for 30, 40 years. You all remember Tipper Gore going on and on about the evils of song lyrics and video games. And
I
so
remember
on.
that. Yeah.
It just feels like such a lame excuse because it doesn't mean anything. It's just it's so broad. We got hundreds of millions of people playing video games who don't go and shoot anyone. It's just an excuse. When the real problem is obviously how they painted this guy, how this guy was portrayed in the media, Charlie Kirk. Half the country thought this is some, right-wing extremist, some absolutely horrible person who said all these horrible things. And that's the other thing. I kind of feel guilty, I got to tell you, because they threw out so much horrible stuff about him after he was murdered, about wanting to stone gays and not flying with black pilots and all this kind of rubbish. I have to admit, I had to check, and I feel really guilty about that. I knew he never said it, but I just felt it was everywhere, and they were just saying it so much. I was like, okay, let me check. So, I checked, and obviously he hadn't said anything like that. In fact, and this is something that I think people really need to take in, which is so extraordinary. This guy was on TV or on YouTube or on whatever, like 3-4 hours a day. He was constantly in the media. There are thousands and thousands of hours of Charlie talking about anything and everything in all kinds of settings. And no one has found a single clip.
Yeah, this is such a great point. This is such a great point because I thought about this yesterday. I'm so glad you brought it up. If a lot of these things were true, they would be playing these over and over and over and over again on The View, on CNN, on MSNBC. They haven't done that. And, you had this columnist at the Washington Post, Karen Attiah, who was fired because she said inappropriate things. She wants to blame, everyone but herself. But the problem is she misrepresented. There's this quote out there about black women being, not as smart as white women. He was specifically referring to different black women like Ketanji Brown Jackson and others. And he wasn't talking about all black women, but it didn't matter, right? They took that quote out of context. I know in your column, I did this yesterday too. It's not unlike the Trump line with very fine people that was completely taken out of context. And we know what happens, Hans, with that. Once they run with that narrative, they don't back off, right? Even though it's clearly false, it doesn't matter. People like Jimmy Kimmel, et cetera, they're going to run with the original narrative because they know that they control most of the narrative anyway.
And they're still doing it now. And that's the grotesque part. I mean, we've almost gotten used to the fact that everyone's, Hitler, everyone's a Nazi. I mean, it's been going on for 8, 10 years? I mean, basically ever since Trump showed up. We're almost blunted to that. But, unfortunately, it has a huge effect on these kinds of people who actually believe this stuff, of which, there are many. And this one guy decided he was going to act on it. And you're so right that the fact that they continued it after it happened is just beyond grotesque. And what it tells me is that they're trying to, they know they played a role in seeding all this hatred. And now they're trying to deflect from it by, blaming other things and doubling down on their lies.
A lot of people on the right have said that, this I've admitted this. I've seen other people admit this too. I think I underestimated Charlie Kirk's impact on young people in particular, but a lot of people have reflected, say this feels different, like a different moment. I think a lot of people said that during, the assassination attempt last July. Is it a different moment, and will anything different happen, as a result? I'm worried about more political violence. I think we have every justification to be worried that it's going to happen again.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think Dick Durbin is the only Democrat so far who has said, we, meaning his side, needs to, stop calling people Hitler. No one else has said that. Oh, maybe Bill Maher said it as well. But, it's just kind of few and far between. But that really has to stop. I don't know if it will, but it's a societal thing. You got to call people out on it. You got to call out your friends. You got to call out colleagues. You just got to say it. No, not Hitler. Hitler burned people in ovens, industrial ovens that were specifically made for that purpose. There's no justification for comparing anyone to that. That's just a completely different thing. So you can disagree, you can call people names, whatever, but that one is so evil. And unfortunately, in my view, it's to blame in large part for what's happened here, because a lot of people actually believe this stuff. And of course, we all saw the movie, with Tom Cruise, Stauffenberg, where a guy tried to kill Hitler, and that was great, and he didn't succeed. And people think, well, maybe we got to kill Hitler. That's sort of the problem. You just can't do it. It needs to become a sort of a societal taboo to just call someone Hitler.
It should be. It should. And why it's not is just baffling to me, because on both sides, you hear some of this. I'm not talking about this incident, but, the right has sometimes used the Hitler analogies too, and I hate it every time. I have some great, I'm going to let you go here, Hans. Thank you so much. I have some great audio from actor Zachary Levi, who's been one of the braver folks from Hollywood to speak out on these things, and he makes that very point about Hitler. But I appreciate you writing about this in the Federalist. Thanks for coming on 97.1 FM Talk in St. Louis.
Thanks so much.
All right, take care. Zachary Levi has been impressive because he's not the biggest name in Hollywood, that's for sure, but he's been brave in a way that most of them are not.
When you have a legacy media apparatus, and not even just the legacy media, but lots of people, voices on X or Instagram or, the new modalities of the media, when they are constantly programming people to believe that Donald Trump is the new Hitler, and anyone who sides with or votes for the new Hitler is a Nazi, and they are the evil in the world, and they must be stopped. That is what desensitizes everyone and activates them to then go take matters into their own hands. They think that they're being a hero. They don't think they're being callous. They think that they're doing away with someone who was actually evil, instead of recognizing that if they were able to become so callous.
He's exactly right about that. There's no doubt about it. And he talked about what Charlie Kirk did for this country.
No, I don't agree with everything Charlie said. I don't agree with necessarily how he said everything, but I took the time to recognize what he was trying to say, what he was trying to do, and what I think he was very effective in doing 90% of the time, which was trying to engage people on the other side of the ideological divide and say, let's talk about this, let's debate, right? Now, unfortunately, a lot of people would step up to that microphone thinking that they had thought through their opinions more.
Yes.
And then they didn't. And so they found themselves in what felt like a gotcha moment. They felt embarrassed. They felt shamed. And then that gets transposed onto Charlie. Oh, look at this bully. Look at this guy who's going to college campuses who clearly knows more. And he's just trying to get people in these gotcha moments. But that's not what Charlie was trying to do. Right.
No.
And so what that does is that just it activates this side more and more to dehumanize Charlie, to dehumanize me, you, anyone else.
Yeah, well stated. Zachary Levi did a great job with that.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
Watch out for an accident westbound 70 at Goodfellow. They've got the right lane blocked and traffic is stacked up in that area. Also jammed is northbound 170 headed for Airport Road. Now, westbound 70, some moderate volume past the airport, a little bit at Bryan Road and out at the 70 split. 6440 is really pretty slow. And this is before you even get to Kings Highway. It's a slow go. And then slow pockets out through the 70 split. What's jammed is southbound 270. It's really lined up. And this is Page down through 40. And then it's moderate volume from there through Doherty Ferry. Also slowing at 21. 55 is really slow tonight. And that's approaching Arsenal all the way down through Bates. 44 is slowing in front of the Arch grounds. And let's see, we've also got some volume on 55 to the south. It's just a little north of Herculaneum. And if you're headed into Illinois, there's some moderate volume on the Poplar Street Bridge. Westbound 5570 still slowing at 203. That, of course, is all due to road work. This report is brought to you by Barron Mirror Glass and Door. They're simply the finest when it comes to mirror glass and shower doors. You can't find better quality, prices, or service than at Barron Mirror Glass and Door. They have the basics all the way up to the elite. Barron Mirror Glass and Door can't be beat. I'm Sue Thomas with Traffic. 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Thank you, Sue. If you go online and check out thegelmanteam.com, it's a great website where you can do a little homework, research, if you will, on maybe buying your next home and selling your next home. And one thing you can do for free, and it's a great tool, they're not going to sell your information or anything like that, is you can find out how much your home is really worth. Not just a guesstimate, something that is very pinpoint accurate. It's some software that they invested in that you can use right now. And again, when you fill your address in, there's a pop-up that will come up and you'll get a price that's pretty accurate. And then if you want the Gelmans to take it to the next step, well, they'll do it for you. If you'd like to sell your home without the hassle, they'll make you an instant cash offer. They can do that. So they have options for you. And they often have all kinds of success outside of other agents because they've been doing this for such a long time. And they like to say they're a marketing company that specializes in real estate. That's so accurate once you get to know the Gelman. So if you need help, and by the way, it's still a tricky market out there. If you're going to get asking price or above, you might have to do some things that the Gelmans will recommend that you might be uncomfortable with, like staging, etc. But if you're looking for top dollar, they have a route and a path to get you that. 314-336-1991, thegelmanteam.com. Check them out today.
97.1 FM Talk welcomes Trans-Siberian Orchestra and their monumental tour, The Ghost of Christmas Eve, at the Enterprise Center on December 23rd. A portion of the proceeds benefits Siteman Kids at St. Louis Children's Hospital. Tickets are on sale now at Ticketmaster.com.
If you're considering an annuity as part of your retirement plan, we need to talk. Hi, I'm Bob Stockdale, Senior Vice President Investments with the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel and host of On the Money, Saturday mornings at 11 on 97.1 FM Talk. Annuities can be a useful tool for some retirement investors, but not all annuities are created equal. Every week, we meet clients who own complex annuities that don't suit their needs and, in some cases, actively undermine their retirement plan. Before you purchase an annuity, get a second opinion from the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel. Requesting a consultation is free of charge. To request a free consultation, contact us at clearpathinvesting.com. That's clearpathinvesting.com, or call us at 636-695-2650. That's clearpathinvesting.com or 636-695-2650. Stiefel Nicholas and Company Incorporated, member NYSE and SIPC.
Hey, it's Bo Matthews, and Missouri Brush Control is helping landowners reclaim their property with forestry mulching. If invasive plants and trees have overtaken your land, Missouri Brush Control will mulch vegetation where it stands with specialized equipment that is efficient and eco-friendly. Selective land clearing like this can help you maximize your property's value. Enjoy your land like you've always dreamed of. Check out our website or Facebook page for before and after photos and videos of our projects. Learn more at MissouriBrushControl.com. That's MissouriBrushControl.com.
Join Mark Patrick seminars and lose the weight or stop smoking guaranteed. That's right, weight loss seminar tomorrow at the Marriott St. Louis West in St. Louis at 11 a.m. Stop smoking seminar, 2 p.m. Sign up at markpatrickseminars.com.
Viking, committed to exploring the world in comfort, offering small ship experiences with a shore excursion included in every port and programs designed for cultural enrichment. Discover more at Viking.com. That's Viking.com.
You're listening to The Mark Reardon Show on 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Well, we have a Wednesday edition of Sue's News coming up here in the 4 o'clock hour. There is a news anchor. I guess she's a former television news anchor from Springfield, Illinois. Her name is Benny Ray Harmony, who went on her show on Friday night, and she was wrapping it up. I guess it was a show called Marketplace, which is about some of the things that happen in the Springfield area. And she does a tribute to Charlie Kirk because she met Charlie Kirk when she was 18 years old and in Arizona. She was going, I think, to the University of Arizona, and she worked at Turning Point USA. And she got very emotional. So she does what she does. I'm going to play you a little bit of this, and she posts some of it to her personal, social media accounts. Supervisor at the station, I guess the news director, says you need to take him down. She refused. She was warned that there could be consequences. So she gets back to the newsroom on Monday, and she's told that she's off the air and could be terminated. So she claims, she said, I said, you're telling me I'll be fired for paying a tribute to someone I knew and someone I was grieving. Well, I'm not going to stick around for that. And then she quit. So the resignation has gone quite viral. The television station says News Channel 20 has not fired or suspended anyone in the last 90 days, which, might be true, but she quit. So you won't really know. But it was, let me see if I can find the audio here because it was pretty compelling. And she, truth be told, was going to join us here this afternoon, but unfortunately there is a lot of demand for this. So my guess is she's going to be on one of the Fox shows or something like that. Which one was that, Ethan? I can't remember where it was. Here it is. Springfield Reporter. All right, sure. Here's what she said on Friday. Thank you, Ethan.
Pay attention. Spirit 1300, turn 20 degrees right. Spirit 1300.
That is not her. That's actually a Spirit plane getting too close to Air Force One, which is a story in and of itself very fascinating. Here she is.
I want to talk about something for a minute, and it is heavy, so please bear with me. I want you to know that it's okay if you feel sadness. It's okay if you're grieving. 2 days ago, I lost a mentor, my first boss, the first person who made me believe in myself, that encouraged me to chase this dream that you're watching right now. Charlie Kirk. There's a lot going on in our world right now, in our country, but I want to say one thing. Lean on your neighbors. Speak up for what you believe in. I don't care what it is. I want to share with you one of my favorite sayings that Charlie would always tell us at the office. He would yell it from the mountaintops, so please listen. When conversations stop happening, when individuals become wordless, that's when violence begins. So if you do one thing today, make it be with passion, with conviction. Stand up for your friends, stand up for your beliefs, and speak loudly, even if your voice shakes. Your words have meaning. Your values have purpose. Never forget that. Thank you, CK. You changed my life.
So again, she wasn't fired for that. She was warned that she needed to take the content down. The tribute was inappropriate from her social media as well. She refused to do that. She gets in to the newsroom on Monday. They are threatening a suspension. She says, no, I'm not going to have any of it. I'm going to quit. So that has gone viral. If there is another side to that story, we have not heard it yet, but I thought that was fascinating. Sue's News coming up after Fox News.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
Well, we have had some slow-moving traffic out there this afternoon. If you are just hitting the road, westbound 6440 is pretty slow. And this is before you even get to Kings Highway. It goes out through McCausland, a little bit of 270, and then in pockets out through the 70 split. There was an accident westbound on 70 near Goodfellow. So there's a delay there. There's also a delay on 44 in front of the Arch grounds. We've got a little bit of a slowdown at Natural Bridge and slow pockets that go out through the 70 split. Southbound 270, slow pockets, Page, down through 44. 55 is really kind of slower than usual from the 44 split down through Bates. And there's some volume eastbound on the Poplar Street Bridge. I'm Sue Thomas with traffic. This report brought to you by Point with an E Pest Control on 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Well, I'm looking at the inventory at Mastercars Inc. on their website at mastercarsinc.com, and it's always fabulous. It really is. But I should say my wife and I, we had a beautiful Jeep Wrangler years ago, and we ended up not using it as much as we did when we first got it because my kids were driving at the time. We were getting out with the dogs. We had one dog that passed away, and we kept it in really good shape and, needed some cash at the time. We sold it to Alex and Gary at Mastercars Inc., and it was a beautiful Jeep, and I still miss it to today. But they have a great black leather, black clear coat Wrangler up there right now that's got under 10,000 miles. This is a great example because you can get great cars that look like new that are used at Mastercars Inc. with low mileage, and you're going to think it's a new vehicle. So that's one example. All the pictures are up on the mastercarsinc.com website. But if you're looking for maybe you want a different color, I had Orange Crush. That was the color of our Wrangler. You want something different? They can find it for you. Have them source you a vehicle. Do it today. Mastercars Inc. online, mastercarsinc.com.
Hello from Pro Outdoor, your #1 irrigation and sprinkler team. Aeration and overseeding season is here to repair summer brown spots. Make sure your sprinkler system is tuned up to water in that fresh seed. We're running fall specials on aeration, overseeding, and new residential sprinkler installs within 2 weeks. Call 636-695-7800 or visit ProOutdoor.com to see all our services. That's 636-695-7800.
Just hearing the word IRS can make people break out in a cold sweat. No one wants to deal with the IRS, and now you don't have to. The good news is Legal Tax Defense has been successfully negotiating with the IRS for more than 15 years. It doesn't matter how much you owe, whether it's $5,000 or $5 million. You deserve the best in the business on your side, and that is Legal Tax Defense. Even if you're working with someone else and just want a second opinion, there is no cost or obligation to call. They can prevent levies, liens, wage garnishments, even file back tax returns. And the best news about Legal Tax Defense is they won't take your case unless they know they will reduce or eliminate your tax debt. Call Legal Tax Defense right now for a free no-risk consultation. 800-284-1238. 800-284-1238. You have nothing to lose, but everything to gain. 800-284-1238.
Annie Fry here. If you're nearing retirement or already retired, call my friends Thomas Helbig and Bob Kershaw with the Retirement Advisory Group. They'll show you how linking to the market is much safer than owning the market for your retirement savings. They are the official financial advisors of my show. Go to retirementkey.com.
Celebrate September with Zero Res and get 3 rooms of carpet cleaned starting at just $129 and take $75 off your air duct cleaning. Book online at ZeroResSTL.com. Take advantage of these huge savings. Spell it forward or backwards, it spells the same. Zero Res.
KFTK FM Florissant from the Kaufman Townsley St. Louis's Injury Lawyers Studio. Call 314-500-5000.
That's 314-500-5000.
All on the free Odyssey app.
A day of pageantry for the president. Elisa Brady, Fox News. President Trump and the First Lady being treated to a state dinner at Windsor Castle after spending the day with King Charles.
We have celebrated together, mourned together, and stood together in the best and worst of times.
The king and his toast also noting next year's 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. President Trump says the term special relationship doesn't do it justice, calling the bond of kingship, kinship, and identity between the two nations irreplaceable and unbreakable.
On behalf of all Americans, I offer a toast to one of the great friendships, to 2 great countries, and to His Majesty, King Charles III, a very, very special man and also a very, very special queen.
The president calling the historic second state visit one of the highest honors of his life. Tomorrow, He'll turn to politics in a meeting with Britain's prime minister. The vice president visiting Michigan.
It's great to be here in the great state of Michigan.
At a metal stamping facility in Howell, northwest of Ann Arbor, Vice President J.D. Vance talking up the administration's tax cuts for working families and American businesses. Tax cuts on Social Security, overtime, and tips, he says, putting more money in people's pockets.
That is what we promised to do, and that is what we're doing every single day.
The DNC, in a statement, say the vice president is doubling down on a disastrous economic agenda.
Fox's Jeff Benasso. Vance also condemning political violence and urging young people to continue Charlie Kirk's work. Just getting word of a shooting involving police in southern Pennsylvania near the Maryland border. At least 2 people seriously injured with a shelter-in-place order issued as a precaution in one local school district. No confirmation yet on what happened. There are reports of officers injured and the Pennsylvania governor heading to the scene. America is listening to Fox News.
eBay has reinvented vehicle buying. From click to curb, everything's covered. Ever try to buy a car online and end up in a parking lot with a stranger and some blind trust? That era is over. Now with Secure Purchase, eBay isn't just where you find your car. It's where you buy it, start to finish. Title, financing, registration, delivery, it's all built in. This is the modern way to buy your next ride on eBay. eBay. Things people love. Secure Purchase is powered by Caramel Dealer Services, LLC, an eBay subsidiary.
Here's a tale of Becky. Didn't know what to do with new meds prescribed and no real cost clue.
She squinted at prices, that can't be right. Then tapped GoodRx and saw the light.
She could get a deal. Book telehealth if she feels.
Learn about those meds without any stress. That one little app does all the rest. Even my horse downloaded it. Dang, save time and money on prescriptions.
Check GoodRx. GoodRx is not insured.
Air Comfort Service, heating, cooling, and insulation, weather.
Our weather stays quiet and quite warm for this time of year. For any evening plans, we'll drop back into the mid-80s, 68 for the low, mostly clear skies. Thursday, tomorrow, the last really hot day, maybe of the year. Partly to mostly sunny skies. It's hot, but the humidity levels are still okay. 95 on Thursday, partly cloudy Thursday night, 68 Friday, partly sunny. This is 97.1 FM Talk. Chief Meteorologist Dave Murray.
This hour of the Mark Reardon Show is sponsored by Gamma Tree Experts. Your trees deserve the best care. Call Gamma Tree Experts. This is the Mark Reardon Show on 97.1 FM Talk.
We have Senator Eric Schmitt coming on with us at the bottom of the hour. He hasn't done a whole lot of media since Charlie Kirk was assassinated. I know he did at least 1 or 2 national shows, but I'm looking forward to catching up with him. Fred, I'm guessing he will be there Sunday for the memorial service, right?
I don't know. We'll ask.
Yeah, we'll find out. He was close with Charlie Kirk, and we're going to air that, by the way. So that will be something that you'll hear here on Sunday on 97.1 FM Talk. Sue's going to do Sue's News in just a couple of minutes. We have Alex Richin here in the studio to hang with us, as he often does on a Wednesday. Now, Sue, I learned something from Alex here that I was unaware of. You know, we've been talking about my dog and how my dog Duke passed away in May, and we kind of went pretty quickly into the puppy land. And Max is now almost 6 months old. He's 42 pounds. I had to take him to the vet today. He's 42 pounds. So he's a beast. But Alex, you lost a dog right after you got back from your honeymoon. It was just awful, right?
Yep. And that was about 2 months ago.
And what did you just tell me when you walked into the room?
We got a puppy.
I did not know that.
He's so cute.
Yeah.
I saw him on social
His name is Otter. And
Otter?
actually, this is I'm glad we're talking about this because you're talking about good stories and whatnot. So I've just heard that you kind of know when it's time to get a new dog, right?
Yeah.
Did you tell me this?
Well, no, what?
Did you tell me you have the feeling when you're ready to get the new puppy?
I might have said that before,
okay,
sure.
So,
but I don't think it was me that said it recently.
Well, so Annie was just kind of doing her research and whatever. It's a Bernese Golden. So it's a Bernese Mountain Dog mixed with a Golden Retriever. And she texted a phone number. There was no pictures. It was just like, this is the type of dog it was. And when she typed in the phone number to text about the dog, a picture from 10 years ago popped up, and it was the same person that she got our dog that just passed away from. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Is that crazy?
That
And she
is
didn't know
crazy.
at all. But in there, it had Miko's like breeder, and the number popped up, and the last text between them was an exchange of how our dog that just passed away was doing as a puppy. And that's,
that's pretty.
And so that was kind of like, that was how we
something.
knew, like, okay, we're ready to get the new puppies.
Okay,
So.
Alex, I have a question. Why did you go for the mix? Was the first dog straight Bernese?
He was a Bernese, mostly Bernese, just a little bit of Australian Shepherd. But Sue, let's be honest, this wasn't my pick. This wasn't my decision. I still got my little Frenchie.
Yeah,
so the
that's
little
true.
French bulldog, that's my guy. Ralph's my guy. And but I think he's it's like a kind of a
I'm looking at pictures right now.
It's a hip thing.
It's a hip thing.
It is. A friend of mine is thinking of that, and she's like, I don't know whether I should go straight or mix them with the golden.
Well, because they're very the Goldens live longer than the Bernese, but they're both very like easy temperament.
Friendly.
Like he is like the best puppy ever, honestly.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, you
How
can
old?
imagine you had the bulldog puppies. They're not good puppies.
How old is Otter?
Otter is about he's real young. He's like 9 weeks. Yeah.
You got plenty of weeks to go.
That's
when
what I'm
that puppy's
saying.
not going to be.
That's what I'm
I think there's
saying.
going to be some things chewed.
Yeah.
Max was like that for a while too. And then I was telling Alex the story that I shared the other day. Honest to God, I'm in my living room. I was watching football, but I decided to listen to a little music and just kind of watch. And I checked on Max. He was upstairs. We're letting him have more of the run of the house. And he was on the bed. I'm like, all right, it's cool. So I come downstairs. At one point I get up and I look behind the couch and he's literally peeled back about 10 feet of the carpet that was torn up a little bit from where the bunny damaged it. And I'm like, how did you do that too? First of all, how'd you do that? Second, how'd you do that without me knowing about it? You're right behind me. And he's getting into, now he's feeling like he can get into things that he wasn't able to because now he's got more of the run of the house. So,
but he's also getting slapped down by one of your cats.
Oh my God, Sue, I got to get this on
that's
video.
funny.
So, we have 3 cats and 2 of them are normal. One is psychotic, and that's Shadow. Now I say that lovingly, but she's different, and she will not, like, for example, she won't let me go and pick her up or pet her. She'll decide, and I know a lot of cats are like this, but I mean, she's really, I don't know if she was feral to begin with when we got her. She's always been this way. She was the one that hid like in the rafters of my house when I first got her 5 years ago, but she does not, do a lot. She'll come up to me when she really feels like it, rubs herself up against my leg and then lets me pet her. Sometimes she'll jump on the couch. It's very rare though. And if I even walk toward her where I'm not even going to do anything with her, I'm going to like let the dog in or something like that. She freaks out. She gets scared. So the standoff between Max, who is part Siberian Husky, we found out, right, and part Lab, is they talk, they howl. So he likes to get in standoffs with the cats, right? And the cats the other 2 cats sort of just say, you're not going to do anything to me. I'm just going to sit here. They kind of taunt him. Well, Shadow has decided that she's had enough. And this morning, I'm in the kitchen, I'm on the iPad, and I hear hissing and then this cat is literally chasing my dog around my living room. She is aggressively chasing him down.
She's had enough.
And at one point he whimpers because her claw got the back of his ass or something like that. I mean, I want to be careful with the eyes because I don't have eye surgery here with the puppy. But I mean, I've never seen her do this before. And she's, hissing and her tail's all up and she's just going after him saying, I think the message is, I've had enough, dude. Just leave me alone.
Here
right?
is the line.
And I think he gets it. I think he's going to get it. I really do.
Yeah.
When I told Fred this story because when I had a bulldog, this goes back 30 years. All right. Mid-Missouri, my first wife, I had a little, she had a dog and Cagney was the name of that dog. And then I had one cat. My cat was Max, actually, is the one that I got when I was in college. And then I got this bulldog puppy who was Newt. He was named after Newt Gingrich. I told the former speaker that he didn't seem to appreciate that named.
That's a shame. That's his fault.
Well, it is. He kind of looked like Newt. All right. So I'm in it was a tiny ranch house in Columbia, Missouri. I'm in the family room area where I had the TV, and then around the corner where the kitchen was, that's where the crate was. And, Newt was very young at the time. I don't know, 15, 16 weeks. So I hear like all this noise from the other room and, hissing and stuff like that. The bulldog comes around the corner, plants himself underneath the coffee table. There was a coffee table that had, space underneath. He's facing toward where the the hallway is to come around the corner. He puts his head all the way down with his paws in front of him. So his chin is on the ground and he looks like, he's afraid. And the cat comes around the corner. Max does. His tail is thick as you can imagine it. He comes right up. Now he was declawed. Okay. Shadow's not, but he comes right up to the bulldog right in front of me and he slaps him, goes, like with his paw 5 times across the
Really?
face. Yeah, I swear to God. And I don't think that they ever had an issue the rest of their lives. He set he let Newt know where the goalposts were, and that was that. So I think that's kind of what happened today in my house. But if it happens again, I have to get it on video because, man, it's entertaining. And he now knows not to mess with Shadow. I think it's pretty clear.
You got to lay the line. You got to lay the ground rules early.
Yeah, yes, exactly.
Right. So
yesterday we talked about, and we had a great conversation with Ian Scher. We love Ian from CBS. Used to be with CNET, but he's with CBS News. He's one of the tech reporters, and we were talking about the Apple event from last week and the new iPhone, and there's new software. So, inspired by that discussion yesterday with Ian, I did as soon as I got home last night. I installed the new software.
Yeah.
And then I instantly regretted it because it gave me all these different looks on the phone and stuff. It's just different.
You don't
have to
like it? Do you think
I'm
you're
not
going to
saying
like it?
yes, because it happens every time. There's different things, like when you go to take pictures, it gives you different options, and I have to get used to it. What I did, Fred, you'd be proud of me, because Fred prints out different stories, and there was a story about the software. I think it was from the Washington Post, and it was giving you, tips, because I always liked it when they do this. Why not use the new software? You have ability to use different tools. So I tend to do a little bit of a tutorial and go online and I find out what's going on. I haven't had time to sit with it, but there's different, features, and I want to start to use them. But yeah, as soon as I looked at my phone this morning, I'm like, oh no, maybe I should have waited.
Maybe
I should have waited just
sometimes
a little
there's
while.
too much with it.
I know.
Just keep it simple.
And then sometimes, I think we talked about this with Ian, sometimes the first version of the new software has all kinds of problems, and people are wise to say, okay, maybe we should wait just a little while. But I did download the new software. So, hey, we got Sue's News coming up.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
We've got an accident northbound 170 approaching Airport Road, and they've been blocking the right lane. So some slow-moving traffic there. The accident westbound 70 past Riverview has also been on the right side. Accident reported southbound Lindbergh past Flory Drive, and they've had the left lanes blocked there. In fact, the northbound lane had a left lane blocked for emergency vehicles as well. Other than that, it's the usual volume. So 6440 is jammed approaching Kings Highway out through McCausland, and then in pockets out through 70. 70, of course, jamming at Riverview, and then some moderate pockets to the west. Southbound 270, slow pockets Page down through Gravois, and 55 is pretty slow between Arsenal and Bates. If you're headed into Illinois, there's some volume headed for the 64-70 split. This report brought to you by Point with an E Pest Control. I'm Sue Thomas with traffic on 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Annie here, and I can proudly say no more spiders in my home. I use Point Pest Control 4 times a year, and I haven't seen any, not a single one, since they've been in my home. Mention Annie and get 10% on top of any other special. Point Pest Control, 636-798-0023.
How much peace of mind will you have if you get a Generac home standby generator and you don't have to worry, even if you're at work or you're out of town, you're out of the country, and there's a storm that comes in, an ice storm, a tornado, or anything else? Maybe the power grid just fails, because that's happened, and it's going to happen more often. The infrastructure is very, very old. If you call Generator Supercenter of St. Louis here, they'll get you a free estimate on a Generac home standby generator. They're the nation's #1 Generac generator dealer. There's a difference between Generator Supercenter and competitors. A lot of the HVAC guys will do generators, but they kind of cheap out on the way that they install them. This is a company that's been around for a long time. They have a retail-facing dealership out in Chesterfield on the Airport Road. A lot of the competitors will use aluminum wire to save money. They use copper wire. And by the way, this is what they do. Generators. So get yourself some peace of mind. Call for a free estimate. No more waiting on hold with Ameren. No more waiting on the power company to fix a down line or anything like that. Stop by the showroom in Chesterfield for a free estimate. They have financing available as well. 314-499-2020 or Generator Supercenter of St. Louis.com.
Your biggest choice in home restoration is, who do you trust with your home, your most valued asset? Few can match Banner Construction's experience and dedication to excellence. Banner is an elite preferred James Hardy contractor and Pella Window specialist. Restoration is a one-time opportunity to have Banner's design team show you architectural options to make your home the neighborhood showcase. Call for a free consultation, 314-569-1050. Now hiring qualified carpenters.
I'm fixing to tell you something that the insurance industry does not want you to ever hear.
bullies often delay and deny. I see them sitting on premiums paid and making money and dragging it out for as long as they can. Many times, we're forced to take them to court. I'm John Morgan of Morgan & Morgan. Their high-paid lobbyists are on a mission to make sure that at trial, jurors are not allowed to learn that the at-fault party has insurance, and in some cases, lots of it. I can think of no case in all my years where there was no insurance for the at-fault party. So let's fight back. It's all these bullies understand. Tell everybody you know the truth. If you've been injured in a car crash or hurt at a store or business, visit forthepeople.com. We're here 24/7. It's that easy. Morgan & Morgan, forthepeople.com.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertisements. Past results afford no guarantee of future results. Every case is different and must be judged on its own merits.
This is Kyle Bush with Crinch Financial Group. For over 6 decades, we've helped St. Louis families and businesses plan with purpose and live with confidence. Life changes, divorce, loss of a loved one, or an inheritance. It can be overwhelming. We provide the resources, long-standing support, and thoughtful guidance you need to plan ahead. With our help and experience, you don't have to navigate these transitions alone. You can move forward with greater clarity and confidence. Your goals, our mission, start today at kfgadvisors.com.
Securities offered through Raymond James Financial Services, member FINRA/SIPC. Prince Financial Group is not a broker-dealer.
We get it. Attention spans just aren't what they used to be. Heads in social media and eyes on Netflix. But what do people do with their ears? Well, for one, they're listening to audio. Americans spend 4.4 hours with audio every day. Oh, and you want the proof? Well, you just sat through this ad that's now approaching 30 seconds. What could you say to a potential customer in 30 seconds? Let Odyssey put together a media plan tailor-made for your unique marketing needs. Advertise with Odyssey. Visit ads.odyssey.com.
From politics to pop culture, Reardon breaks it all down. 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
All right, got Sue's News coming up here in just a moment. First, though, Alex Rich has joined us as he often does on a Wednesday. And, you know, we've highlighted the fact that you play guitar, you do some singer-songwriter stuff around town, including at Busch Stadium. Now, you just told me that you've added a saxophone to the mix.
Man, let me tell you something. The saxophone,
when
you add that to the mix. So we're not the trio, I guess, you know, obviously when the saxophone joins.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know how I feel about being just the full Alex Rich band. The Alex Rich trio has become a thing. But do you at what point have to come up with a name?
Well, when you have 4 members, then you're not a trio.
Yeah, well,
I mean, I'm just going
the
by
quartet.
That quick,
yeah, I mean, but
the quick math. Sue, what would you
know.
say? How do you differentiate? Sounds like if you add a 4th member, you're
maybe
not a trio.
do we call us the trio plus one?
The trio plus one.
A quadro.
Well, the bottom line, though, because I want to get to Sue, is you are going to be performing in the last home game of the Cardinals.
The last home
right?
game of the Cardinals this year at Busch Stadium. I'll be
Sunday?
at the Budweiser Terrace this Sunday. I start
with
playing
the
at
sax or without?
11:15. The saxophone player is joining us.
Awesome.
And we're going to have a blast. We're gonna have a great time.
We'll see you then.
Yep.
These allegations are deeply concerning.
Does the president have any comment?
We're not going to comment.
It's not clear messaging.
No.
And now, Sue's News. Brought to you by Sue.
Well, happy National Monte Cristo Day. Now, we have learned many food things on this show. Do you, Mark Reardon, know what a Monte Cristo sandwich is?
Yeah, Katy Station. It was either Katy Station or Boone. Boone. What the hell? Boone. What the hell was Boone? Damn it, Boone. There was another restaurant in Columbia, and they used to feature the Monte Cristo, and it was delicious. I think it was Katy Station.
Oh, it looks good.
It's like there's
What's on
ham
it?
and cheese involved, I believe, right?
Yeah, Fred. Who said they didn't know?
Fred.
It's a fried ham and cheese sandwich. Similar to French toast, they dip it in an egg batter and pan fry it until golden brown. It's usually ham, turkey, Swiss.
Wow.
It's often served, and this is where it just goes south for me, with powdered sugar and a sweet jam. Nope.
Oh, I think
I could do it.
I'm sure you could.
Here's what I remember, by the way, is Boone Tavern. That's the other restaurant I was trying to think of. But back in the day, that was like I don't remember loving the Monte Cristo.
That
it was on
sounds
menus,
delicious.
but I haven't seen it on a menu for decades. So you bringing it up is very unusual.
Yeah, who has them?
Well,
I mean,
that's
anybody?
a good question. It's just the celebration of their day. Somebody Google it for me. I've got too many things running here.
I feel like I know what I'm making for dinner, right?
Let's see. Looks
I
like
just don't like ham.
the Crow's Nest in Maplewood.
Thank you, Ethan.
Press waffle at the City Foundry.
right, there
the
you go.
Blue
Huh.
Duck. Couple of options.
So I'm not a
in
big
Maplewood.
ham person. I've taken a stand against ham in the past as well, but for
Right
whatever
there
reason,
with you.
yeah, back in the day though, I like those a lot. Those sandwiches.
Fair enough. Make it with turkey. Maybe it's not so
it's
bad.
all right.
Don't put jam on it at the end.
I don't remember
All
that
right.
part. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the part I don't think I would do.
No. It's also National Apple Dumpling Day. Now,
Mm.
I don't know that I've ever actually had one. Well, maybe I have, but it sounds good to me. Alexa Reardon would hate it. Also,
She
it's
would.
National Constitution Day and National Professional House Cleaners Day.
How about that?
So that's nice. I just like that they cover all bases. Okay,
Well,
here is a
Constitution
story.
Day is a pretty important one.
Yes,
and,
it
you
is.
know,
I
I've-
shouldn't have glossed
No,
over
no, but
that.
I like. I mean,
Disrespect. She was more concerned about the house cleaner day. you
Well,
know?
I was because wow, that's nice.
Yeah.
Okay. On this day in history, 90 years ago, I had not heard this story, and maybe I had and I forgot. Fred, maybe you know it. In 1935, Brooklyn Dodgers outfielder Len Konecki was killed while attempting a skyjacking.
No.
Whoa.
What does that mean?
He was furious that he'd just been cut by the Dodgers, right?
Okay.
So he took his frustrations out on a flight over Canada, was trying to take over the plane. But while he was trying to take control of the plane, somebody swapped him in the head with a fire extinguisher and it killed him.
What?
And they
I
called-
never knew anything about this
That's
story.
insane.
It is insane. From 1935, and I don't know if that's how you pronounce Konecki. It's Koenecke. So Len Konecki.
Konecki sounds right.
Wow.
Thank you. 90
can't
years ago
believe-
today.
Fred, I can't believe you didn't know
I
that
didn't
one.
know that. No.
That's very
I'm gonna
interesting.
look it up.
Give it a week, and
that's
Fred will be the most
incredible.
researched person in the world on it.
How is there not a documentary about this? or
Right?
something?
I'll have
Well,
a newspaper
I don't think
clipping.
they have the video.
Give
of
it a
the-
week.
Of
Fred
the,
will be on
That's
it.
true.
Give it
That's
a-
true. They probably don't.
I'm
No
gonna have to go into
video.
my archives and see if I can find it.
Okay, thank you, Fred. And then, okay, this phrase I still find myself saying. Why? Okay. On this day in history, 18 years ago, it was in 2007 with the "Don't Tase Me, Bro" guy.
Oh, yeah.
That's what had happened.
Oh my God! I used to have that. I could have usually, when we had the old system at KMOX, I could have played that to you
Oh,
in a
I would've
heartbeat. And
loved it.
also, the only thing better is remember when Larry Connor did it
Yes,
on
that's what I
Channel
was going to.
4?
Okay, Larry Connors did one to talk about "Don't Tase Me, Bro." Well, here's what happened. A University of Florida student named Andrew Meyer was tased by campus police and forcibly removed from a town hall. Apparently, he was pressing John Kerry about Bush's foreign policy. And he's the one who said, "Don't tase me, bro." So Larry Connors gets a hold of it, and he goes out and has the police force tase him just to see what the experience was
It
like.
was
And he
awesome.
went down. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
it was incredible.
The audio is fantastic. Fred, do I have any of that stuff?
No.
Did it all go? All that stuff that
I
was in
think
my
it's
folder?
gone.
Is it
Is
really?
it? Oh, that's a
Oh,
shame.
is there any chance that someone would have dumped it
I feel
somewhere?
like you should volunteer to maybe try it out sometime on the show.
No,
Just get
because
the
I saw what
audio,
happened
you
to Larry
know?
Connors. But that
Oh
was
my
Probably
God.
lives on the internet somewhere.
Get the dump
It
button
does.
ready.
No, I know
does.
I can get that, but I'm saying because I had a lot of good audio in there. I probably should have stepped up and said we need to put that in a folder somewhere, right?
Not that
Yeah.
this is any better, but and it's totally off topic. Have you ever done the pregnancy like simulator, Mark?
No, I have not, but I know what you're talking
I'm gonna bring
about.
it in. We're gonna do it on this show. I
Okay.
think one of these Wednesday afternoons and see if Mark can
Take
Go
it.
through the
tolerate
pain? Yeah, I
I
don't
had
think
to
I
do
could.
it. I did it
The
one
answer
morning
is
over on
no.
the other show.
Did you?
I did.
The
It was
answer is
tough.
clearly no.
It was
I have
tough.
no pain tolerance whatsoever.
I say we do it.
All right, I'll go for it. Fred, you gonna do it?
I don't even like thinking about it.
You probably shouldn't. Ethan looks game.
I am trying to find your "Don't Tase Me, Bro" sounder.
Oh, all right. Mhm.
You'd
And
find
he's
that
it's
trying,
working
and
right
he's
now.
trying
That's
to
out
avoid
there.
the topic here.
Yeah, not in every country, but people are living longer than they used to in Japan, and they just set a new record there. Nearly 100,000 people in Japan are now 100 or older.
Sheesh.
That's amazing. Now, the official tally is 99,763 people in Japan are over 100. It's the 55th year in a row that number has gone up.
Wow.
So Japan has really figured out what to eat, how to live, to get to, or how to think, probably, to get to over 100.
You know, I have two grandparents that lived to over 100.
Oh, that's
Oh,
impressive.
that's good for
Yeah.
you.
Well, I guess
Yeah.
they were great grandparents. But
Okay,
yeah,
well-
still that counts, right?
No,
I
not
think.
the same.
I
but-
would
Why
say
not?
it's my mom's grandma lived to 100, and her mom lived to 103.
No, that's amazing.
Probably more impressive
Yeah,
that long
thank you
ago.
for it. Yes.
when we didn't have as many medical interventions.
Yeah.
Just
Well, what can I
succeed.
say? We're an impressive bunch.
They were not
Oh,
eating
God.
processed food. I'm going to point that out.
And no Monte Cristos. By the way, Ken, who is a listener, tells me that Denny's used to have that. I don't know if they still do. Haven't
Yeah,
been
you
to
know what?
Denny's in a while, but been as long as Cracker Barrel for me. 30 years probably since I've been to Denny's.
I think I'd go to that one that Ethan mentioned before that. Okay, a writer for the travel site, since we've got Alex with us today, the traveler.
Yep.
Now, the travel site is called 1 Mile at a Time. And what he did was a big feature on the best types of food to order on airplanes. Now, that's assuming they serve an actual meal, not just snacks. So, of course, this would probably be most helpful if you're flying internationally or first class. But what he did was he put up pictures, and some of those meals almost look really outstanding. But here's one tip that I thought is good for the rest of us. He says his general rule when looking at a meal option in Coach is this: think of them like they're leftovers. Which one would reheat better in the microwave? Because that's all they do.
Makes sense.
Nothing is cooked on planes. It's all prepped to the caterer hours before you even get there. So you're just bringing an option home from a restaurant. Which one would be better heated in the microwave?
I'm going to be honest. I just ate a couple pretty delicious meals for what I thought they would be on an airplane on the way to the honeymoon, because
Yeah.
we flew over to Italy.
Right.
And the pasta. I feel like pasta usually is a pretty good, like a chicken pasta.
Okay.
All right.
It was pretty
I
solid.
could get behind that.
Yeah.
They say, listen, if none of it appeals to you when you think about it as put in the microwave, just go cold. So whatever, like if it's a sandwich or something else, you could just try that. But I thought, wow, I hadn't really ever thought of that. And that's actually
Makes
a good
sense.
piece of advice. All right. And there's a little bit of a story out today. Wendy's, if you're a Wendy's person, they're switching from whole leafed romaine to shredded iceberg.
Ugh.
For
That's-
burgers and
kidding me?
chicken
That's
sandwiches.
actually a horrible move. I
is.
thought
It
when you talked about
is.
the topic, I was not going to be as invested as now I am.
Uh-huh.
That is a horrible move.
It is, but it's probably going to save them millions and millions.
It's going to
of
save them,
dollars.
but and they
Yeah.
say it's an effort to make lettuce consistency.
What do you
So-
think, Fred?
No, I don't like iceberg at all.
Hall of
I know, it
Famers
doesn't do
has
anything.
spoken.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I reject it too, but I still like their Frosties.
That's fair.
Random fact
Come on.
time.
Random fact: people are more likely to donate to a hurricane relief effort if their name starts with the same letter as the name of the hurricane.
That's
Come on.
fascinating. That is unbelievable.
Yep, and there you go.
And kind of sad if that's true.
It is.
But
It is.
That's weird human psychology. Thank you, Sue. Appreciate it. Alex, good to see you.
We'll see you guys.
We usually spend a little bit more time with Alex, but we got Senator Schmitt
all right.
coming up after the break.
I'm Chad Robinson with Your Money Now. Stocks were mixed today after the Federal Reserve voted to lower rates by 25 basis points, the Dow gaining more than 260, the S&P 500 off the pace by 6, and the tech-heavy NASDAQ lost 72. Shares of StubHub opened at $25.35 in their New York Stock Exchange debut today after the online ticket seller priced its IPO in the middle of its expected range. The pricing late yesterday raised $800 million for the company. StubHub's long-awaited IPO comes after the company paused its plans back in April. Eli Lilly today says its experimental pill outperformed Novo Nordisk's own oral drug in the first head-to-head study comparing the two treatments. The study focused on patients with type 2 diabetes. Crude oil futures for October are falling 0.8%. They're currently under $64 a barrel. That's Your Money Now.
I'm still going for it, even with higher stroke risk from atrial fibrillation and a regular heartbeat not caused by a heart valve problem. Over a 3-year study, Eliquis apixaban tablets reduced stroke risk better than warfarin, and over 97% of Eliquis patients did not experience a stroke. A first stroke occurred in 2.9% of warfarin patients versus 2.3% of Eliquis patients.
Don't stop prescription Eliquis without asking your doctor. Stroke risk may increase. Eliquis can cause serious and potentially fatal bleeding. Don't take if you have an artificial heart valve, abnormal bleeding, or antiphospholipid syndrome. While taking, you may bruise more easily or bleed longer. A spinal injection increases blood clot risk, which may cause paralysis. Get medical help right away for unexpected bleeding or bruising, or back pain, tingling, numbness, muscle weakness, or incontinence. Aspirin products, NSAIDs, SSRIs, SNRIs, and blood thinners increase bleeding risk. Tell your doctor about planned medical or dental procedures. Learn more at Eliquis.com or call 1-855-ELIQUIS.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-575-6986. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS. Generous programs are now available that can give you a fresh start. Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems. We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau. You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com or call 800-575-6986. That's 800-575-6986. Tax Relief Advocates, real solutions for real people.
We, without hesitation, recommend that anybody work with ThrottleNet. The experience will be as good as it's been for us, for anybody, because you'll get a true partnership and you'll be able to rest easy that you're going to get the service that you need while they're also doing all those things that you don't want to have to think about, that you don't want to have to worry about. They're always doing that in the background for you.
Don't wait for your next IT crisis. If your business depends on technology, you need a partner that's got your back. Contact ThrottleNet.com to get a free IT evaluation and see how we can support your IT everything.
Make the most of fall and have an outdoor space that you actually love that's built to last. Lakeside Renovation and Design builds custom decks, screened-in porches, covered patios, and they use these durable, low-maintenance materials like composite decking and aluminum railings. They're going to make sure you have the perfect setup so you can host your family and friends for backyard barbecues or just sit outside and enjoy the morning coffee even when it's raining. Don't wait until the spring to start planning the space that you want to enjoy next year. Start with a free consultation. Visit LakesideRD.com, LakesideRD.com.
It's time for a $98 AC tune-up.
And at 4:33, this portion of the show is sponsored by Jerry Kelly Heating and Air.
Your voice, your values. 97.1 FM Talk. St. Louis Conservative.
Well, Senator Eric Schmitt did a great job with Kash Patel in that hearing yesterday. I played some of this for audio cut of the day yesterday, talking about, really, where is this political violence coming from?
The Lee Zeldin stabbing attempt, left wing or right wing? Left wing. The Covenant school shooting in Nashville, left wing or right wing? Left wing. The Butler, Pennsylvania assassination attempt on President Trump, left wing or right wing? Left wing. The Trump International West Palm Beach assassination attempt, left wing. The Abundant Life Christian school shooting, left wing.
Yeah, it goes on and on. Senator Schmitt is with us this afternoon. Hello, Eric. How are you? I know you took this whole thing very, very hard, so I appreciate you coming on here this afternoon. How are you holding up?
I'm doing okay. It's been, a tragic week, since Charlie Kirk, who was a friend of mine, was assassinated in front of the world and his family. I mean, it's just really, really brutal. And I think, you and I have talked about free speech a lot over the years and how important it is for our country. And this was a guy that was willing to have, debates and tough conversations in public and in the open. And he was literally assassinated because of his political views. And there's just no place for it in our country. So I'm yes on free speech, no on political violence. But I do think, and what I took the opportunity in the Judiciary Committee yesterday to talk about, I do think we've got to be honest about what is happening and where this is coming from. This is not a both sides thing.
It is
not. It really isn't. It's not. And I think, for the media that has just parroted these talking points, I can imagine they're defensive about that point of view, but that's the truth. And that's what we need now more than anything. If we're going to get on the other side of this thing as a country, we just have to be truthful. When you have, most recent YouGov poll showing 25% of those who self-describe as very liberal are willing to tell a pollster that political violence is justified, that's crazy. Now, on the very conservative side, you got 3%. That's 3% too many. I would never argue that. But it's not the same thing. And when you have 85% of Democrats think Trump is a fascist. You've got words like Nazi and fascist thrown around all the time, existential threat to democracy. And when people on the left, on the poll, that over 55% believe it's somewhat justified for President Trump to be murdered, we got a problem. We've got a problem. And I'm just not going to back away from saying that, because that is the truth. The left has a real problem here, and I condemn all political violence. But let's not lie about it, about where it's really coming from, the vast majority of it.
But this is going into a different area right now. And you still have people out there, whether it's Caitlin Collins on CNN or Jimmy Kimmel or, some of these other publications that are trying, even after yesterday, even after the prosecutor in Utah reads this entire text message exchange that makes it pretty clear what the motivation was. They're saying, we don't know what the motive here was. That's the narrative that they're going with. And they get away with it because the audience, that's what they want to hear, right? And they don't want to hear anything beyond Trump's to blame, and that's who gets the blame in every instance, even here, which is maybe I shouldn't be shocked, Eric.
It's become the entire political identity of one political party in the news media, which is, Trump derangement syndrome. Trump is Hitler. All his followers are fascists, and if you say something they don't like, it's an existential threat to the. I mean, they've repeated that stuff for 10 years, like a decade. It's on a loop. And this radical left-wing ideology clearly infected the shooter here in the messages. I mean, he wrote on one of the bullets, "Catch this, fascist." He's in the text messages with his trans lover saying that, saying specifically that there's some hate, he's talking about Charlie Kirk, you can't negotiate with, right? He was killed for his point of view. And that can't be where we're headed. Like, that can't be the reality in this country. It certainly was last Wednesday. And Charlie Kirk was a high-profile spokesman who was convincing people. You look at the numbers of young voters now in college campuses. You and I are similar ages. I won't say that I'm 10 years younger than you, but I think I'm 10 years younger than you.
You're 10 years younger. You're 10 years younger.
But in college, when I was in college, you knew it was liberal. I would take these classes. Now this indoctrination, has happened for a full generation. What Charlie Kirk said was, I'm going to go on those campuses and ask me anything, prove me wrong. And that was moving people, and he was a real threat. And like I said, it's tragic. This guy was a really kind of a generational talent, had built a movement that you could directly relate to the election of 2024 with President Trump winning. But just as a country, the left I think has to come to grips with they have a real political violence problem here. And it's not the same thing. It is just not the same thing. And there's not a both sides thing. And we need to reject that and say, what is really going on here? When you dehumanize half the country all the time. I listen to Chuck Schumer say on the floor, these extremist MAGA Republicans.
Right.
And it's just all they have. And it's crazy.
Well, that's where I would draw the distinction and have this week. So it's one thing if you have a bunch of people that are, political pundits that are screaming these things, and we go back and forth all the time. But it's literally the people who lead the Democrat Party, whether it's fat J.B. Pritzker across the river, whether it's Sleepy Joe, whether it's Kamala or Chuck Schumer or Dick Durbin. These are the people who are in leadership positions. It's one thing, if some, Jamoke on the radio like me says one thing, but these are the people supposedly leading the country. And then the reaction from some of them, obviously some did react appropriately, but it didn't take very long to spin this on Trump. And then again, this narrative that, no, this guy is more extreme than MAGA. That's why he did, which doesn't even make any logical sense, but it doesn't stop him from trying to spread the nonsense.
Well, 2 points there. One is, and I mentioned it in the hearing yesterday, Blue Sky, which is sort of this liberal alternative to X, the inundation of that platform of people celebrating the murder of a fellow citizen, they had to issue a warning that you can't do this. And these weren't some radical trolls that were anonymous. These were teachers. These were professors. These were journalists. And so I have to start asking the question, get pulled back from the brink here. Good God. There's more to life there's just way more to life than politics. And if you're at a place where you're celebrating the assassination of another human being, it's time to check yourself. The second point is, to your point about not just, who's talking about it, like one of the other things that came out of the hearing yesterday was this Operation Arctic Frost that was exposed, which was the FBI basically surveilling, seeking documents of Republican, like when I was in the Republican AG Association, evidently they were doing that, when Biden was in office. Turning Point was Charlie Kirk's organization was part of this. They had worked themselves ever since the Russiagate, Mark, into a frenzy that lasted almost a decade because they couldn't believe Trump won. Obama thought he was handing the baton to Hillary Clinton. They made up all this stuff. They demonized half the country. They called them deplorables. They called them trash. They tried to throw President Trump in jail. It's all a manifestation of something deeper and darker that has happened on the left. And they have a whole network of NGOs that fund this violence, like dropping off bricks at riots that we saw across the country in the summer of love of 2020. So I think there's a lot of self-reflection that needs to happen here. Unfortunately, you just don't hear many Democrats doing that. They're just so used to just blaming everything on Trump. That's kind of where they're still at.
Will you be, there's going to be a memorial event at State Farm Stadium in Glendale, Arizona, which is the home of the Arizona Cardinals. We're going to air that on Sunday. Will you be there?
I might be there. The schedule's kind of in flux right now. I might be there. So I can't say definitively. But yeah, I think it's going to be a pretty powerful day. I know President Trump's going to be there. J.D. Vance is going to be there. Many others are going to be there and pay tribute to Charlie Kirk. And I think the legacy that he left behind, too. I mean, you see the outpouring of the number of people that want to start, these chapters on their campuses or even in their high schools. I just, I will tell you, Mark, like I grew up watching Crossfire,
right?
Right. You saw Pat Buchanan and Jack Kemp, and that made an impression on me. Charlie Kirk was on people's phones. The young people that reached out that I talked to, who've been really moved by this because he was somebody that was organizing and persuasive. I just think that his memory, I hope, will live on in kind of the ongoing youth movement for conservatism. I just think he was really impactful in that way. So I'm sure Sunday will be a lot about that.
I don't know if you, for me, I came of age politically in the early 80s and just kind of formed my political ideology. I don't want to say on my own, maybe some friends influenced me. My parents, never really said who they were voting for. But then, late 80s is when I started listening to Rush Limbaugh. And a lot of us at that time were like, whoa, here's somebody saying something that certainly inspired me to get out of music radio and into talk, but saying something that we believed in that no one was really expressing. And, Rush dies, has been quite, I think, about 8 years ago. And no one really is even able to pick up that mantle. But with Charlie, this is where I underestimated, I've admitted this several times, I underestimated the influence that he's had on these younger people across this country, Eric. I really had.
Yeah. No, I think I knew it. I'd been on his show several times. I was probably on his show a couple of weeks before all this happened, and you kind of understand the reach. I mean, I'll just a quick story. I was going to meet president in the last weekend of the campaign. As you remember, I was on Trump Force One a bunch during the campaign, including the last weekend. So I flew down to Arizona to meet up with where they were at. And Charlie Kirk, who's from Arizona, was doing something with Tucker Carlson, and President Trump was there. We're all sort of backstage talking about, the election's a few days away. It all seems like a foregone conclusion now, but back then you didn't really know how it was going to play out.
That's right.
Necessarily. And he's like, look, we got Arizona taken care of, and kind of went through all the work that they had done. He wasn't just a guy who was persuasive. He actually, had boots on the ground and doing the work. And then we flew to, he's just like, get to Michigan, get to Wisconsin, which is where we were headed the next couple of days. And he was a very talented guy, and he was very committed to the cause. And I think that authenticity really came through, and he was just really smart too. I'll tell you, I've been in debates and I've all that, but to see him in action, and also one last thing, it's rare to hear someone that age talk about how important his faith is to him and family, get married, have kids. That's the really important stuff in life. And as you and I both know, who've had challenges in our lives, that is sort of the core, right? That is what's really important. He talked about that, I think, in a way that is just kind of unique.
Absolutely. And, we continue to learn more about that. And then some of the disgusting things. I don't know how much you've been exposed to some of the stuff that keeps getting said on the internet. Now, some people are losing their jobs over it, and I'm not, fond of any, regular person losing their job over political speech, but there are people that are in, pretty high positions at universities or fire departments or even members of the Secret Service and military that have said some vile things, and they've met some consequences.
Yeah, I don't understand the mentality. I guess I come from the school of, playing sports, like you fight like hell and you want to win. And I'm a very competitive guy, but when that's over, I mean, I don't want anyone to be like injured in the game and not be able to live their dream. I would certainly want anybody, a political opponent of mine, or anybody, to actually die or be murdered. I don't understand the glee that so many people who live down the street from you might have. I don't get that, and we got to reject that, and we got to pull however we can back from the brink on there. But it's sort of exposed, I think, again, going back to those numbers, a full 25%, 1 out of 4 people who describe themselves as very liberal believe that political violence is appropriate, and over half of those on the left think it's okay and at least somewhat justified for President Trump to be murdered. That's pretty stark. And I think, again, it gets back to some of the dehumanization that's happened in our politics, and specifically related to the right and President Trump specifically.
Yeah, you have a colleague in Chris Murphy that essentially was calling for violence just a couple of days before all this happened. He may want to try to run from that.
Yeah, the day before. Yeah, the day before he said, we're at war and by any means necessary.
All right, Eric,
anyway.
Great to catch up. It's been a hell of a week. I hope you do make it to the memorial. I know you have family obligations as well, but we'll catch up soon. Thank you.
All right, Mark. Take care.
Yeah, take care.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
Well, we've got some volume on westbound 70. It's mainly Jennings Station Road, past the airport, and then in pockets out through 64. Mainly moderate volume. Now, 6440 is slower, and this is Kings Highway out through McCausland, and then slow pockets from 170, really all the way out through the 70 split. It's pretty heavy at 94. We've got volume in both directions of 270 between Olive and Doherty Ferry, but it's moderate. And southbound 55, look for a slow go there, mainly headed for Bates, but there is some moderate volume to the south, kind of in the Herculaneum area as you head down there as well. I'm Sue Thomas with traffic on 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Celebrate September with Zero Res and get 3 rooms of carpet cleaned starting at just $129 and take $75 off your air duct cleaning. Book online at ZeroResSTL.com. Take advantage of these huge savings. Spell it forward or backwards, it spells the same, Zero Res.
Do you know if you have enough money saved for retirement? Because if you really don't have a written financial plan in place, how do you know? That is just so scary to me. And what makes sense to me is what financial and tax architects do. Their idea is, listen, come in, we'll teach you a class. It's called Retirement Planning 101. And they hold this at colleges throughout the entire area. But you sit down for 2.5 hours and learn some of this stuff. Oh, here's a tax efficient way to handle your retirement money. Oh, here's how and when to claim Social Security. And if you'd like, they will sit down with you individually and come up with a plan tailored specifically for you. Now, this class is no cost, no obligation, but you will learn. And I think that's what makes sense. Start by learning. Now, you do have to register. So call 314-888-5101, 314-888-5101. Register, go to a class, and get a handle on retirement.
Scott Jennings here. I'm excited to be part of the St. Louis conservative conversation, cutting through the noise with unfiltered common sense.
Scott Jennings.
Weekdays at 8 p.m.
on 97.1 FM Talk.
Rhino Shield is far superior to even the best traditional exterior house paint. Rhino Shield is 8 to 10 times thicker than paint and comes with a 25-year transferable warranty. Rhino Shield is the only ceramic coating company that has been chosen by Disney, This Old House, and 3 times on HGTV's Curb Appeal, where every episode is concentrated on unpainted brick, bonds and seals to stucco, wood, hardy, block, color lock, masonite, and more. No better product for those steel aluminum-sided homes that have become, chalky and tired looking. We coat sloped and flat roofs to extend their lives too. After 15 years, we've got a great reputation and a superior product. As long as it's affordable, why wouldn't you do it? Before you make the costly mistake of painting with traditional paint, you'd be best served to call Rhino Shield today. We are the experts and our evaluations are free. 877-25-RHINO or 877-25rhino.com. Tell them, ladies.
Don't paint, don't Rhino, go Rhino Shield. Never paint your house again. Rhino Shield.
Attention St. Louis Medicaid members. If you need assistance with daily living, you can receive a free service from Freedom Care in your own home from a loved one who lives with you. With Freedom Care, you decide who provides your daily care, helping you with preparing meals, bathing, laundry, transportation, and more. A family member or friend that gets paid instantly. It's all through Medicaid, and as a St. Louis resident, it's 100% free to you. New to Medicaid, the Freedom Care family will guide you through enrollment, making it stress-free for patients and caregivers. With over 7,000 five-star Google reviews, we've perfected at-home care for Medicaid members and caregivers. If you live in the St. Louis area, this service is free to you through Medicaid, and with our InstaPay app, caregivers can choose to get paid instantly. So go to freedomcare.com or call 314-697-4912. 314-697-4912. That's 314-697-4912.
Freedom Care, we're here for you.
If you want thick, healthy, gorgeous hair, then you need Hair Volume from New Nordic. Available as a tablet or delicious gummy, Hair Volume is available online at Amazon and NewNordicUSA.com or in the hair care aisle at your local CVS.
This is the Mark Reardon Show on 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Steve Koonin, after the top of the hour, he's a senior fellow at Sanford's Hoover Institute. He's always a great guest on some of the climate nonsense. I talked about this a little bit last week, and this is I would say it's an undercovered media story just because of everything happening, not only with Charlie Kirk, but everything that is associated with President Trump. But there was an Energy Department report that really was something that would never have happened under a previous administration that was Democrat, that challenged the belief that greenhouse gas emissions pose a serious threat to the globe. And, Steve has written about this extensively. He wrote a book on this topic. He's been with us many times before, and he is a common, sense called like he sees it kind of guy. The book is called Unsettled: What Climate Science Tells Us, What It Doesn't, and Why It Matters. So he's going to join us at 5:04. Josh Kraushaar, 97.1 FM Talk political insider. He's the elder statesman of my political insiders, because Josh has been with me many, many years through several publications. He's the editor-in-chief of the Jewish Insider. He's a Fox radio and Fox television analyst, and he'll join us at 5:30 on 97.1 FM Talk. I have some good audio here this afternoon. I have good audio from Ted Cruz going at it with Caitlin Collins on CNN.
You said that you believe that left-wing groups should be investigated. You want to know where the financing is coming from for protests. Do you believe that they should also be looking into right-wing groups as well, or do you believe it should only be limited to that?
Look, I believe anyone engaged in acts of violence should be prosecuted and go to jail. But I will say there has been an enormous amount, and CNN has been guilty of this, of both sides-ism, of saying, gosh, both sides are violent. And understand, yes, there is some violence on both sides, but it is the left that overwhelmingly celebrates this. It is leftists that have been celebrating. You look at Blue Sky, and it is a cesspool of leftists celebrating the murder of Charlie Kirk. You look at recent polling that shows over 50% of Democrats saying violence against Elon Musk is justified.
Yeah, again, I apologize. The audio is a little wonky there, and I apologize. But it was a good exchange last night, because Caitlin Collins, even after all the text messages got revealed yesterday, in the CNN crew, they still want to go on and act like, oh, we don't really know why this happened. What was the motive here? We can't really tell. We can't really read through the tea leaves that are pretty obvious.
I think the argument that people have been talking about recently is what's going on with the Charlie Kirk case. I think people have raised that because there have been other acts of political violence as well when it comes to targeting Democrats. I mean, we've seen that with a lawmaker who was killed in Minnesota this summer alongside her husband. We've seen it with the break-in at Nancy Pelosi.
But the assassin
We've also
there
seen
was
it with
a deranged.
Justice Brett Kavanaugh
The
and
assassin.
others.
Hold on a second. If you're going to say facts, you need to get your facts right.
Yeah, here we go.
The assassin there was not a right-wing assassin acting on a political motive. The assassin there was someone who had been an appointee of Tim Walz, and he was a deranged lunatic. And yes, there are deranged lunatics who attack people both right and left. But if you look at murders carried out for political agendas, they are overwhelmingly on the left. whether it is the assassination of Charlie Kirk, the 2 assassination attempts of Donald Trump, the assassination attempt on Brett Kavanaugh, over and over and over again, whether it was the congressional shooter who came to Washington to the baseball game and said, I want to find
Yeah, the list goes on. And by the way, we'll get into this a little bit in the next hour too. Even Josh Shapiro, and he kind of ignores this, the governor of Pennsylvania, that he was targeted by a anti-Israeli left-wing lunatic who supports Hamas. So that wasn't even right-wing violence.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
Well, if you're just headed out the door from the office this afternoon, 44 is pretty slow right there in front of the Arch grounds, especially westbound. Then southbound 55 is lined up near Arsenal down through Bates. There's just a little bit of moderate volume at Z as well, further to the south. Now, westbound 70 still slowing near Riverview, and that's all due to an earlier accident. There's some volume past the airport. Then it looks pretty good and slows again at Wentzville. 6440 is slow pockets from Kings Highway on out through 70. Southbound 270, most of the volume there is south of Page down through Doherty Ferry, but northbound is slow headed up toward Ladue Road as well. And if you're headed into Illinois, there's some volume eastbound on the Poplar Street Bridge. And other than that, it's really not too bad. I'm Sue Thomas with traffic on 97.1 FM Talk. St. Louis Conservative up. This report brought to you by Point with an E Pest Control.
Tired of mice? Point Pest Control finds their entry points, eliminates the infestation, and seals them out for good with our exclusion services. Mention Annie to get 10% off on top of any other special. Call 636-798-0023. Visit Point with an E, pointpestcontrol.com.
I want to talk about Susan L. Ward, who is a fine family practice attorney here in the St. Louis area. And I wish I had time to tell this story. There was something that happened in the aftermath of my divorce that involved child support, and it's too long a story to share right now, but what I will tell you is that in my mind, I did nothing wrong. In the court's mind, I was at fault. And the reason this is important is because I had an attorney at the time that had very little experience, and I felt like did not do a good job of explaining some of these things to me. Now, these are tough situations, and Susan will tell you, if you think that the marriage is going to end, reach out as soon as you can. Don't put that off, because that can be costly in the long run when it comes to possible mistakes that you make. Susan and her team know how the judges work, so that's very important. Experience matters in family law, in all areas of the law, but this one gets very emotional because kids are involved, and anger gets involved, and it's ugly sometimes. Susan will take the edge off. She's going to do great work for you, and her team here in St. Louis with a brand new office at 270 and Manchester in De Pere. 314-783-9400, the website stlfamilylaw.com. The focus on family law and the emphasis on you, Susan L. Ward.
Hey, it's Annie with my friend Stewie, and you know Stewart's American Mortgage and the Bagel Loan gets you your mortgage or your refinance at no closing costs. And I have Stewie with me right now. You're all about saving people money. Fiscal responsibility is really in right now, and you've got something up your sleeve for these folks.
You know what, Annie? Some people like to get better cash flow. Other people just want to pay off all their debt. So we're going to do something very, very unique. In Scotland, it was traditional to paint the door red once you paid off your mortgage. So we're going to give you the Red Bagel Challenge. If you refinance with us and you consolidate your debt and you get your mortgage paid off in half the period of time remaining, we're going to give you a $1,000 bonus at the end of that term.
Well, Stewie's all about helping you build your wealth and build equity, and the Bagel Loan is another way to do it. Remember, no closing costs with the Bagel Loan. Reach out to Stewie directly with 314-324-4440. That's 314-324-4440. You can Google Bagel Loan for more information. NMLS number 226715.
I hear from sellers all the time that they fear they have missed out on the selling market. They are so relieved to learn September, October, and November are strong selling months. With low inventory and hopefully lower interest rates, this fall will be a hot one for real estate. I'm Christina Straight, owner of Straight Realty. You may have heard me say, why pay more than 4 for years? Now it's why pay more than 2, saving you even more money. Call me 314-441-4444. And remember, why pay more than 2?
Straight Realty is a licensed broker in the state of Missouri, Kansas, and Nevada.
We'll talk some climate science with Steve Koonin coming up right after the top of the hour. Don't forget, we also have an audio cut of the day at 5:45.
KFTK FM Florissant from the Kaufman Townsley St. Louis's Injury Lawyers Studio. Call 314-500-5000.
That's 314-500-5000.
All on the free Odyssey app.
celebrating close ties. I'm Lisa Lacera, Fox News. President Trump and King Charles toast the U.S.-UK alliance at a state dinner hosted by the king.
Sitting in the center of a table about half the length of a football field inside Windsor Castle, President Trump paid tribute to his host.
The lion-hearted people of this kingdom defeated Napoleon, unleashed the Industrial Revolution, destroyed slavery, and defended civilization in the darkest days of fascism and communism.
King Charles III noted a shared language and heritage.
The successes of the British Redcoats and of George Washington's Continental Army today stand shoulder to shoulder, brothers and sisters in arms.
President Trump is the first American president to be hosted at 2 state dinners in Great Britain, invited during his first term.
Fox's Jared Halpern at the White House. Washington County, Utah Sheriff Nate Brooksby says Tyler Robinson, the suspect in the murder of conservative activist Charlie Kirk, was afraid of being shot by police and had suicidal thoughts after the shooting.
The parents convinced him not to do that and, conveyed that they would, stand by him and help him surrender peacefully.
Robinson was turned in by his father. He faces aggravated murder and other charges and could get the death penalty if convicted. Multiple police officers seriously hurt after a police-involved shooting in the southern part of Pennsylvania near the Maryland border. York Hospital says it's treating 2 people. Governor Josh Shapiro said to be rushing to the area. A not unexpected move by the Federal Reserve.
The Federal Open Market Committee decided to lower our policy interest rate by a 1/4 percentage point.
Chair Jerome Powell, after the decision from the Fed, stocks remained near record levels. The Dow added 260, the NASDAQ minus 72. America's listening to Fox News.
Hey, listen to this. All I needed was a new starter. Got a great deal on eBay. Did it myself.
Yeah, that's cool. But how about the soft purr of an upgraded exhaust when it fits just right?
For me, it's the little things, like these new windshield wipers from eBay I installed. From small fixes to big upgrades, eBay has all the parts you need at prices you'll love, guaranteed to fit every time. eBay, things people love. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
Here's the tale of the daily med fill. Same old pharmacy, same old bill, but those prices kept rising higher still.
Till the savings wrangler rode in, cool as can be. Tap Good RX, saving massively.
No plan? Don't matter none. Up to 80% off. Deals are done.
Discounts hitting harder than Ma's chili. Dang. That one little app does all the rest.
Save time and money on prescriptions.
Check Good RX. Good RX is not insurance.
Air Comfort Service, heating, cooling, and insulation. Weather.
Our weather stays quiet and quite warm for this time of year. For any evening plans, we'll drop back into the mid-80s, 68 for the low, mostly clear skies. Thursday, tomorrow, the last really hot day, maybe of the year. Partly to mostly sunny skies. It's hot, but the humidity levels are still okay. 95 on Thursday, partly cloudy Thursday night, 68 Friday, partly sunny. This is 97.1 FM Talk. Chief Meteorologist Dave Murray.
This hour of the Mark Reardon Show is sponsored by Gamma Tree Experts. Your trees deserve the best care. Call Gamma Tree Experts. This is the Mark Reardon Show on 97.1 FM Talk.
You know, I'm digging a little deeper here during the break because I still see, I don't even know what to believe about this stuff. I really don't. There are still people, a lot of them, making the case, even now when we know this information about the text message exchange between the roommate and the killer, that this guy was motivated by his right-wing leanings, not his left-wing leanings. So I'm going through the timeline of a guy by the name of David Schuster, who used to be a reporter, I think, at ABC and maybe NBC because he was on MSNBC. I don't think he's there anymore, but he is completely deranged. So I'm going through his timeline because on the 12th, which was, of course, Friday, when all the questions were still out there, they were making the case that this was MAGA, ultra MAGA. So he retweeted, and this is what I'm disappointed about, Martina Navratilova. And she's kind of been on the right side of this trans issue, you might remember. So she retweets Nancy Mace, Congresswoman, who says, "We know Charlie Kirk would want us to pray for such an evil, lost individual like Tyler Robinson to find Jesus Christ. We will try to do the same." Martina Navratilova tweets out, LOL. So now that the killer is a right winger, we need to pray for him. Got it, Nance, you effing hypocrite. Well, so this is what's getting repeated time and time and time again. Here's the other thing from his timeline. I can get into this here in a second. Apparently, now I'm going to tell you that the right wing does this too. You knew conspiracy theorists would be out there. They think that the FBI, some people, Schuster retweeted some guy, that the FBI wrote that whole thing out about the exchange with the roommate. They're making it up because real people don't use the word interrogated or squad car. That's what they're going to. You can't even make this up. The only thing I'd say about that is I know that there's right-wing kooks too, but my goodness. Steve Koonin is with us this afternoon. He's a senior fellow at Stanford's Hoover Institute and the author of Unsettled, What Climate Science Tells Us and What It Doesn't and Why It Matters. Steve, how are you this afternoon? Sorry, I had to go off a little on a tangent.
Great, Mark. I'm doing fine. How are you?
I'm doing great. I have touched on this. This is a very important story to me, and we've talked before about the climate, but there's this Energy Department report that came out a few weeks ago. I know you highlighted it either in the Wall Street Journal. I think it was the Wall Street Journal. I've talked about it a couple of times, but this is the first time that we have had a report from Washington, maybe in decades, that goes and strays from the narrative of climate catastrophe, right? And were you a part of this report? Did you take part in this?
Yes, I was one of 5 co-authors of the report.
So what did this report say, and why is it so different than some of the narrative that we heard before?
Well, the Energy Secretary, Chris Wright, understands climate science very well. And he also understood that there's a big disconnect between what the public is hearing and what the science actually says. And so he commissioned the 5 of us, all expert working scientists, to try to expose some of those disconnects with, of course, appropriate references to tell people, things are not really what you've been hearing from most of the media.
One of them is interesting, and I've had for many years Dr. Roy Spencer on my show, and he told us last week he's involved in some sort of lawsuit, which is preventing him from speaking on some of these topics, which is concerning to me. But one of the things that they find is elevated carbon dioxide levels enhance plant growth, contributing to global greening and increased agricultural productivity. That is factual. You know that, Steve. That's something that never, ever gets mentioned in this whole dispute about climate. Let's say you believe that all of our SUVs and our behavior here in America and China, India, we're causing all this warming. Maybe we are causing some of it. But even if you do believe that, you have to at least admit, don't you, that some of this CO2 is good for parts of the world.
Yes, CO2 is not the entirely evil thing that it's been made out to be. You remember that in greenhouses, we enhance the level of carbon dioxide up to about 3 or 4 times what it is in natural environment to make the plants grow better.
I always go back, Steve, maybe I've mentioned this with you before, but there was a guy who, and I researched this, or I kind of went back and looked at this recently in 2014, and he was from the University of California, Berkeley, and he was certainly no conservative, and he even admitted that he was someone who once did not believe that we were responsible for warming, but he was then in the camp that humans were causing most of the warming. But he wrote a piece in the New York Times, you might remember this, about tornadoes. And he was honest about the fact that there were not more tornadoes because of climate change. In fact, you can maybe even make a case that there are fewer intense tornadoes. We have more houses in places where we didn't have them in the 1940s and 50s. So there might be more damage from hurricanes that touched down back then, where we didn't have houses. But you point out in this report that there's no evidence about more frequent tornadoes or intense hurricanes or floods and all this stuff.
Right. So the guy you're referring to is probably Rich Muller, who's a professor.
That's exactly him.
At Berkeley. He's a good friend and a fine scientist. And he's right. When you look at the historical record over long enough times, you don't see any changes in hurricanes, floods, dryness, and so on. Yes, there are ups and downs, and there are differences from one region to another. But overall, things just haven't changed very much at all, even as human influences on the climate have grown.
Steve, we've had people in our military that have declared that the number one threat to this country and to the planet is climate change and global warming.
That was certainly a theme of the Biden administration, and I think the military, by nature, follows the commander-in-chief. but that doesn't mean that they're right. And to me, it's a great disappointment that we squander our military attention and funds on things that are just not a threat and ignore much greater threats.
So I'm always one, I'm not an expert on this stuff like you, or I mentioned Dr. Spencer. I've always described myself as a lukewarmer because I don't deny that there's, change to the climate that's occurred. There's been some warming. But my question is, how much, two-part question, I think you might have this, how much are we actually to blame? And then the second part I think is even more important. What can we realistically do about it outside of all living in 300 square foot homes, right? Because that's when you really look at the extreme nature of the climate alarmists. In order to fix this, you'd have to change everybody's lifestyle on the planet. And then they never talk about the poor people who are in different countries who may want some air conditioning or heat, who do not have, the ability to get that. So I find that fascinating as well, Steve.
Yeah, I would say of the warming, we're probably responsible for about half.
Yeah,
maybe a bit more, but the number is really uncertain, and it could be as much as 100%. In terms of other weather phenomena, which are much more impactful than the warming, if you don't see a trend, you can't say it's due to human influences. So I think we've got to wait and see whether something actually emerges.
Well,
as to what we can do, I wrote already a decade ago that the only realistic thing to do is to adapt.
Yes.
And we're very good at that.
Yeah.
Humanity has prospered, even though the globe has warmed about 1.3 degrees over the last century. And so we should adapt. If you really want to do some missions, let's develop the technologies and take our time and not break everything else in some foolish quest.
So what happens from here on with this report? Obviously, there's been a lot of criticism. A lot of the, the climate alarmists don't believe you. It's just a Trump derangement syndrome thing. I think on their part, they don't want to look at a different side of the equation here at all. So what happens next with this?
Yeah, well, the National Academies just today released their own report, which is quite at variance with what we wrote. And I think some body, whether it's Congress or one of the executive agencies, has got to get everybody in a room together and stop us talking past one another and really hash out what the science is and what it isn't. Meanwhile, the EPA, as you probably know, is moving ahead to try to eliminate the so-called endangerment finding, which is the regulation of carbon dioxide emissions. That may well hinge on legal issues rather than scientific issues, but we've got to get the science accurately portrayed no matter what.
Well, one of the things that you do in here is you removed in this report the words existential crisis emergency. That used to be in a lot of the reports about climate change. I kind of referenced what the military has even said, but that you've kind of removed a lot of that language in this report, correct?
Yes, when you look at the real science, the economic projections, it's a couple % impact on the GDP for a couple of degrees of warming. It's really in the noise, as we physicists say.
So I'm happy that there's a different perspective being discussed here. And to your point, why not have, this kind of goes back to some of my thoughts about COVID in the early days of COVID. There seemingly was just one narrative that was coming out of the White House. We had Dr. Fauci and Dr. Birx, and Marty McCary, who's now in the administration now, was out there, and I would have him on saying, hey, wait, there's physicians out here that have different opinions. The same thing is true with this climate stuff. It's just that this where we go to the media. The LA Times and some of these other publications have deemed your opinion, even if it's a little contrary. You've even admitted that we're causing some of the warming. Maybe we're causing all the warming. But anything that goes contrary to the climate alarmist narrative, that's verboten in the media.
Yeah. I think a well-structured national commission, as we've used in the past to resolve controversial technical issues like the Challenger disaster or the JFK assassination, with equal representation from people of both minds, all laid out in public, I think would be a valuable contribution to this story.
Absolutely. Steve Koonin, always great to have you on. I appreciate the work on this particular topic. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I wanted to go, I always like this because I and now I got to do this in a way where I have to use Safari. Just bear with me here because I put something in a Google search and it didn't work for me because then it's asking me to sign into the New York Times. So just give me a second here to type in some stuff because I think it's important. And he mentioned Richard Mueller. I had him on the air with me. And this was, if you were listening earlier this afternoon, I asked Fred about some audio because I used to have this soundbite in there from Richard Mueller. And I always found this interesting. And every time I see, a big hurricane or when we had the Springfield tornado, you get the numbskulls, almost call them something else at the Post-Dispatch, writing about climate change, et cetera. But this is a guy in Richard Mueller who is a professor still at UC Berkeley, who is he's not a denier. He believes that we are the driving force in, changing the climate. But this is how he wrote this piece, and this has not changed in 10 years. It was actually November of 2013. Does global warming weaken tornadoes? Yes, you read that correctly. Despite the recent fate of deadly twisters, including those that tore through the Midwest over the weekend, the scientific evidence shows that strong to violent tornadoes have actually been decreasing for the past 58 years. And it is possible that the explanation lies with global warming. You don't hear this much discussed, do you? He even says this is certainly not the popular impression. He goes through some, alarmist stuff like Senator Barbara Boxer. Remember her? This is climate change. You're going to have terrible storms. You're going to have tornadoes. You had Michael Mann, who's the prominent alarmist out there, saying if you're a betting person or the insurance or reinsurance industry, you'd probably go with a prediction of greater frequency and intensity of tornadoes as a result of human-caused climate change. But Dr. Mueller said the evidence shows the opposite. And he says, I'm not talking about global warming per se, which I am convinced is real and caused by man-made emissions, but not everything attributed to global warming has scientific basis. And he goes into some of the details and some of the history, and even cites NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, because they have a chart that kind of tracks the tornadoes recorded from 1950 to 2011. And he admits that, at first glance, it looks rather dramatic. The number of tornadoes in 1950 was only 200. By 2011, it had shot up to 1,700. But 200, that's ridiculously small, right? If it had truly been that low in the past, The Wizard of Oz would have never been written. And indeed, NOAA accounts for those early small numbers by explaining that originally only the most violent tornadoes were recorded, leading to lower reported totals. By contrast, these days, even little storms are logged. Backyard dust devils are reported for insurance claims. Doppler radar makes it hard for any tornado to escape notice. So he really meticulously spells out the science here. And it's interesting from a guy, I remember interviewing him, because one of the things that he told me, and this was the soundbite that I think I lost, was let's say that we turned off this country completely. We got a switch. Let's say President Trump has a switch. We're going to shut it all down. Of course, we can't do that. But let's say we're going to shut down the United States because we have too many carbon emissions, right? Too many cows farting out there. Within a year, maybe 2 years, if we did that, but probably a year, the CO2 level would be exactly the same as it is right now. And that's because of China and India. And that's what they don't tell you. So we could do all these things. We can make all these sacrifices. You can force people to have EVs that can't charge, properly, all this stuff. It's not going to do a bit of good. That's why I have, for decades, ever since Al Gore started spreading all this nonsense, and I heard this from Steve Koonin, adaptation. If we think this is going to happen, and there's certain aspects of climate change that will affect our lifestyle, our way of life, our oceans, our beaches, right? We'll figure out a way to adapt, right? And I've always said this too. Look, in the end, if we lose California, was it that great of a loss? Vegas will be beachfront property.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
On the roads this afternoon, yep, we have had some issues. But at this hour, if you're leaving town on westbound 70, it's really not bad. A little bit slow at Jennings Station Road, past the airport, and in pockets out through Highway A. 6440 has heavier traffic, and it's Kings Highway out to McCausland, and then the slow pockets that head out through the 70 split. Southbound 270, that's lined up, and it's south of Page down through Doherty Ferry, but northbound is slow in that area as well. There's also some volume at Gravois. Southbound 55 slowing at Bates, and now we have really some slow-moving traffic on either side of Highway Z An incident reported south of Z to blame. And if you're headed into Illinois, we look fine on the bridges downtown. But westbound 5570 is slow at 203. That is all due to road work. This report brought to you by Barron Mirror Glass and Door. They have the largest, most beautiful showroom in all of St. Louis. It's full of the latest, most custom designs. It's in Chesterfield Valley, and there you'll see why they say creativity unlimited, quality unsurpassed. I'm Sue Thomas with traffic on 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative. Are you nearing retirement and don't know if you have enough money saved to retire? That is scary. Do you have a written retirement financial plan in place? Well, when it comes to retirement planning, the trusted team at Financial and Tax Architects are the best. They've helped people all over St. Louis retire with confidence. And that's what you want. You want to retire with confidence. Now, they offer a one-night, 2.5-hour adult education class called Retirement Planning 101. They hold these at colleges over the St. Louis area and in Illinois. No cost, no obligation, just learning. And at this class, you learn how to avoid costly mistakes, how to maximize your income, how to reduce taxes in retirement. So call them today, 314-888-5101, or visit fta-ria.com and take the first step toward a smarter retirement. 314-888-5101.
I'm John Morgan of Morgan & Morgan. One question I'm always asked is, how did you become the largest injury firm in the world with over 1,000 attorneys and $25 billion in verdicts and settlements? One way was our financial strength. Medical malpractice is the third leading cause of death in America. To prosecute a typical case costs up to $250,000 in case cost. We advanced them all. Product liability cases can have similar costs with an army of lawyers on the other side. Automobile insurance companies have the resources to fight. Guess what? So do we. Many law firms simply may not have the financial firepower to work up your case the way you deserve. And we don't charge by the hour. No recovery, no fee. If you have a question about your case or wish to become a client, go to forthepeople.com on your mobile device or computer. 24/7. It's that easy. Morgan & Morgan. Injured? Dial pound law or visit forthepeople.com for an office near you.
When it comes to roofing, you can't go wrong with Correll Roofing. Mark Cox here. My friend Curtis Correll came out, looked at my roof, worked with my insurance.
And we have a little breaking news happening here this afternoon. There was a shooting of some police officers in York County, Pennsylvania, and they're doing a briefing right now about this.
Please. I'm going to address you this evening concerning a critical incident that's rocked the community here in York County this afternoon. The incident occurred in Caduras Township, York County. I'd like to preemptively say that there are many details which at this point we are not prepared to release given the ongoing nature of the investigation. That having been said, we would like to advise the community that there is no current active threat. The situation today involved law enforcement officers who were shot. I can confirm that the shooter is dead. I can confirm that there were 5 law enforcement officers who were shot today. 3 fatally, 2 that were transported here to Wellspan in York. They are currently listed in critical but stable condition. The District Attorney of York County, who is no stranger to this community, or in collaborating with the Pennsylvania State Police, Tim Barker, I've spoken to him. The Pennsylvania State Police has been asked to convene a major case team to conduct the lead in this investigation with the assistance and in collaboration and in partnership with the York County District Attorney. I can assure you that all of the resources of the Pennsylvania State Police are being brought to bear. There is still very much an active scene at Caduras Township, York County. Later this evening, the District Attorney will have more information to release. I can tell you that the Pennsylvania State Police have taken over calls for service for the Northern York Regional Police Department, and we will continue to do so to support our partners. I can tell you that I've spoken to the special agent in charge of the FBI out of Philadelphia, our municipal partners and county partners here in York County, and we've received multiple offers of assistance from our fellow state partners to include New Jersey and York. But we have a very large investigative scene. In being here today with our law enforcement family for the second time in 2025, I'd just like to say on a very personal note, our hearts and prayers go out to them, to the families of the deceased and the families of those officers who were wounded. There are simply no words that I can offer to assuage the grief that this community has experienced and unfortunately will continue to experience. The grief will be unbearable, but we will bear it. So we stand here today united for our partners all across the law enforcement spectrum, and we will not rest until we've conducted a full, fair, competent, and thorough investigation into this matter. Lastly, I would simply ask to the community here in York County and beyond, all across Pennsylvania and all across our nation, if you could keep the families that were touched by this tragedy today in your thoughts and prayers. Please give them a solemn thought. And to the women and men who are working diligently right now to push this incident forward and the investigation forward and the aftermath that will have to be dealt with and persevered through, our hearts and prayers are with them. Thank you very much. I'll now turn it over to Governor Shapiro.
That's Colonel Christopher Parrison. There were 5 police officers who tried to serve a search warrant in this area north of Harrisburg. 3 officers are dead.
Day for York County and for the entire Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. We grieve for the loss of life, for 3 precious souls who served this county, served this Commonwealth, and served this country. And we continue to pray for the full recovery of those who are dealing with their wounds. This, of course, is on the heels of just a few months ago when we lost another York County son, Officer Duarte, who again gave his life in the line of service. I had the opportunity with the Lieutenant Governor and with Senator Phillips Hill, Representative Grove, and your 3 county commissioners to spend some time with the families of those who have been impacted by this violence today. I think it's important for you to know that these families who are dealing with, they're grieving right now and they're suffering right now, took time to tell us how proud they are of their loved ones who put on a uniform to keep us safe.
So that's Josh Shapiro, the governor of Pennsylvania, talking about this situation that is still unfolding in York County, Pennsylvania. It's about 35 miles south of Harrisburg. I might have said north of Harrisburg, but south of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. They were serving a search warrant. The person, apparently they were serving the warrant on, had a gun, fired at the officers, then turned his gun on himself. 3 officers are reported dead and 2 in serious condition. We will continue to cover that story. Before I get to Josh Kraushaar here, who's my next guest, this I'm just going to tell you, I was searching on David Schuster's Twitter feed. David Schuster used to be a reporter. I remember watching his reports on the Today Show back when I was loyal to the Today Show, probably 2 decades ago, right? So I think he does independent, so-called independent journalism. And he retweets someone up there, and this is new, so maybe some of you have heard this conspiracy, but she writes, I see the FBI has taken to writing fan fiction. Young gay men talk to one another like this. Half of it is cop speak, quote, interrogated, unquote. Squad car, retrieve it, swept that spot. And why does he address multiple loose ends in a convo with his significant other unprompted after expressing that he did not want him involved? You're not good at this. She's telling the FBI, you're not good at this. And she posts the screen capture of the exchange, the text message exchange, which they revealed. And I guess she underlines, to be honest, I'd hoped to keep this secret till I died of old age. That's a red flag. Apparently, that's something that indicates there's a conspiracy. He says, because the roommate says, I thought they caught the person. Robinson says, no, they grabbed some crazy old dude, then interrogated someone in similar clothing. That's a problem because he used the word interrogated. Is he supposed to use the word questioned? I mean, I had planned to grab my rifle from my drop point. Well, that sounds like something that someone has experience with weapons and is planning to assassinate someone might use, right? And I guess the notion, and this is a guy who used to be a trusted reporter with NBC News. He's also the guy that on Friday and continuing into the weekend, and this is a continuous theme for a lot of these left-wingers, including a lot of the left-wing media folks, they still are out there saying, and Jimmy Kimmel did it last night, this is right-wing violence that we're looking at here. This guy was way to the right of MAGA. He killed, and he did this assassination because he didn't think that Charlie Kirk was conservative enough. He wasn't vocal enough. I mean, the whole narrative, the whole spin on that, first of all, it doesn't pass the smell test for 1 second, but they continue to spread the nonsense. It's really staggering. We'll get Josh Kraushaar's impression of that coming up.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
On the roads this afternoon, westbound 6440, that's a slow go, and it's right around Kings Highway, out through McCausland, but then pockets really that go all the way out through the 70 split. 70 slowing westbound at Jennings Station Road, past the airport, and a little bit at the Blanchette Bridge, then in pockets out through 64. Southbound 270, most of the volume there is south of Page, down through just south of 44, but northbound is slow, headed for 6440. Southbound 170 slow at 64. We are quiet on eastbound 270. And southbound 55, really pretty slow in the construction zone, headed down toward Bates. But boy, does it jam headed for Z. It's slow on either side of Z down south. If you're headed into Illinois, we're fine on the bridges downtown eastbound. I'm Sue Thomas with traffic on 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
The Martins came over, we were having spaghetti when we suddenly noticed that we started getting sweaty. So we grabbed the keys and we ate it in the van. That's what my friend said, call Cherry Kelly, man, CherryKelly.com. Give him a call, even though it's late, CherryKelly.com.
I have been trying to spread the good news about Underdog Fantasy for about 10 months now because we can play in Missouri. We have been able to play in Missouri for a while. And with football back, and that's really where I have fun on Underdog, at least the most fun, it's the best place to select entries and win money all season long. Of course, the NFL season started last week. If you go onto the Underdog app right now, you can see some of the matchups for this weekend, including Miami and Buffalo, which is the Thursday night game. And all you have to do is pick Jared Allen or Tua or Tyreek Hill or one of the other players on either team and pick whether they will go higher or lower on one of their stats. It's super easy. If you get your entries right, you can win up to 5,000 times your cash, and you can play with as little as $1. Now, when you set up an account and you deposit some money, if you use this promo code and you make your selections, once you make your selections and spend $5, your first $5, you'll get $50 in bonus funds when using this promo code, Mark R, MARKR. So that'll get you the extra $50 when you play your first 5. Millions of fans have won billions making plays on Underdog. Will you be next? My wife had some luck on it this week earlier with the Monday Night Football games. Must be 18 plus in President, Missouri. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/play and get terms _DFS_.html for details. Concerned with your play, call 800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org.
He's Donald Trump's #1 enemy in Congress, Chicago Senator Dick Durbin. And now Dick Durbin has a new scheme, a government takeover of your credit card. Today, consumers have thousands of choices in credit cards, all with equal, strong security. But Durbin's plan is less competition and less security. And that means more risk for your credit and your identity. Tell Republicans in Congress, stop Dick Durbin's takeover of your credit card before it's too late.
Paid for by Electronic Payments Coalition.
Men, need a clinic that accepts all insurance, including Medicare? U.S. Men's Medical Center in St. Peters does. U.S. Men's helps men experiencing loss of energy, focus, concentration, and low libido. And they accept all insurance, even Medicare, for testosterone replacement therapy. Patients love the staff and the fact that, yes, I'm going to say it again, they accept all insurance, including Medicare. Feel better? Call U.S. Men's Medical Center at 636-244-5333.
Your biggest choice in home restoration is, who do you trust with your home, your most valued asset? Few can match Banner Construction's experience and dedication to excellence. Banner is an elite preferred James Hardy contractor and Pella Window specialist specialist. Restoration is a one-time opportunity to have Banner's design team show you architectural options to make your home the neighborhood showcase. Call for a free consultation, 314-569-1050. Now hiring qualified carpenters.
When it comes to roofing, you can't go wrong with Corel Roofing. Mark Cox here. My friend Curtis Corel came out, looked at my roof, worked with my insurance adjuster. I got a new roof, new gutters, and even new screens on some of my windows. Curtis specializes in working with insurance companies. Even if you've been denied, he's often able to work with these insurance adjusters to find a way to get it covered. Here's something else Curtis tells me. With cooler weather coming, you need to be aware of something. Roofs cannot be installed if the temperature dips below 45 degrees. Some companies go ahead and do this anyway, but you're going to have problems down the road. So if you're concerned that your roof won't make it through the winter, call Curtis Corel today. Corel Roofing has crews with over 20 years of experience. They pay attention to detail, and they can work with all the luxury line roofing as well. Call Curtis at 314-222-9529. That's 222-9529. Or on Facebook at Corel Roofing Co.
It's time for a $98 AC tune-up.
5:35. This portion of the show sponsored by Jerry Kelly Heating and Air.
25 years strong. 97.1 FM Talk. St. Louis Conservative.
Audio cut of the day before the hour is up. Josh Kraushaar is back with us. 97.1 FM Talk political insider. He's the editor-in-chief of the Jewish Insider. You see him on Fox all the time. You hear him on Fox News Radio. Josh, crazy, crazy times that we're living in. Good Lord. You and I have talked about a lot of big stories over the years, but we're still having an argument in the legacy media over which side, left or right, this kid was motivated by. I mean, I just pulled up David Schuster's account. He used to be at NBC, and he's retweeting conspiracy theories that the FBI manufactured and wrote the script yesterday with that text exchange. Now, Josh, you know me. I know that the right does this as well with goofy conspiracy stuff, but I feel like I'm living in an alternative universe.
Yeah, we're in some pretty bad times because if you can't agree on what are widely accepted facts that were presented by the Utah prosecutors yesterday from the text messages that the suspect himself wrote to his roommate, saying he was furious and full of, he wanted to, go after Charlie Kirk because of hate. He thought he was hateful. That is as, crystal clear a motivation as you could possibly find, and yet you see all these contortions of people, and a lot of people who should know better in the media, in who are influencers on social media, who are people who are well educated and should know better are trafficking in lies. And you see, this is to me, this is we were talking about this on the Fox panel last night. I see this as much it's not a left-right issue, because you see, as you mentioned, Mark, the same issues among right-wing social media influencers and the kind of misinformation that's going out there. I mean, it's a consequence of social media itself, and you have these companies that are incentivizing the worst, most extremist hot takes and bad information, and it's crowding out the good. And that's how companies like Meta and X and TikTok, that's how they're profiting. They're profiting on pitching extremism and lies to all sides, and they're dividing America. And by the way, Mark, and this is something, I think we see the consequence of this in real time, but it's not just social media influencers on the extremes. It's China, it's Russia. I mean, for God's sakes, we have a China-owned platform in TikTok that is deliberately skewing its algorithm for anti-American, hateful, anti-Semitic content to push to the youngest Americans out there. So it's no coincidence when you look at the public opinion data showing how radicalized so many of these Gen Zers become. So, I mean, to me, this is a real civilizational crisis that a lot of people are now recognizing, but no one really wants to do anything about.
Are you surprised by this? Some of this is really brazen and ugly. Like George Conway has been all over this from the beginning with no regrets whatsoever about expressing essentially glee over Charlie Kirk's assassination. I mean, there are a lot of people out there, and I mentioned Jimmy Kimmel. He goes on and he tries to spread this stuff last night, and everyone wants to blame President Trump. So I guess I shouldn't be shocked in the climate that we live in. I'm on David Schuster's site right now because I was looking at some of the responses, and somebody said, because, you want to try to compare this to something that happened in the past with other people. And I'm trying to find the tweet here, but they used Trayvon Martin as an example, basically saying, if you had conservatives were cheering for the death of Trayvon Martin. Now, I don't think that was happening at all. They were trying to say that whole shooting scenario was very different than the way it was being explained in the media. But the amount of people that are in high profile positions that are jumping on this, this kid was to the right of MAGA bandwagon is quite stunning to me. Martina Navratilova, I saw one of her tweets. So this is a mainstream narrative that's really gotten out there, and they're not letting go of it.
Yeah, I mean, that's the most disturbing. When you realize this is having a real life impact, it's not when you have some random social media people that no one's ever heard of posting these things. It's when you have established, well-regarded professors, newsmakers, reporters that are actually, becoming radicalized really in real time on social media. You mentioned a few of the names out there. These are pretty respected people who have just lost themselves. And it shows you. I mean, look, I think there's just a basic standards problem. Like, these people should not be the institutions that they work for should be having some kind of standards. But I also think you're seeing some of these folks radicalized in real time, and also the incentive structure is totally broken. You're seeing so many people in the mainstream media, what's left of it, not being able to have enough funds, frankly, to hire people who are going to be objective, call balls and strikes, get the facts. And the incentives are for people to leave these platforms and start their own Substack or start their own, influencer platform. And how do you make money? How do you make revenue? How do you profit from that? It doesn't matter if you're not telling the truth. It's just riling up the base, riling up people who don't care about whether things are right or wrong or whether it's true or false. So I think we're in a big world of hurt. We're seeing things slowly, the boil starting to get worse and worse and worse. And what's most worrisome is what we saw with the Charlie Kirk assassination, because you're seeing an increasing number of people, and this is very much been scrutinized on the left, but you're also seeing this in polling among right-wingers too, a tolerance for political violence, a tolerance for riots, a tolerance for this hate that's online. And a lot of times it's remained online, but we're starting to see in the last, with Charlie Kirk most prominently, but really in the last few years, things that are extremist online content translated into the real world and really, really violent and awful consequences.
How much credit would you give Turning Point USA and Charlie Kirk for Trump's win last year? Because obviously he's given a lot of credit, and there was a strong undercurrent with younger people, and he has to get a lot of the credit, doesn't he?
Yeah. I mean, look, I think one of the big surprises from the 2024 election results was how well Donald Trump did with Gen Z men, especially. And that was not picked up as much as it should have been in the polling, but it really was demonstrated in the results and in what you see on campuses, frankly, where Charlie Kirk's grassroots energy, I mean, the fact that he just had the phrase "happy warrior" is one that's been around politics, for a long time. But really, whatever you thought of Charlie Kirk's views, he wanted to engage. He wanted to debate. He had a smile on his face. He had his deep-held beliefs, and he debated with a lot of people who disagreed with him, and that was what made him so distinctive. And I think it really propelled the success of Turning Point. There are a lot of conservative campus organizations out there. Turning Point really did take off in large part because of Charlie Kirk. And look, the fact that Gen Z men, against all odds voted, or against all expectations, I should say, voted for Donald Trump, supported Trump over Kamala Harris, tells you a whole lot. There were a lot of other reasons for it, but Charlie Kirk certainly one major factor.
So what because everybody, and we did this last year with Trump and the assassination, if everyone always says this is bigger, this seems different, this seems like a bigger moment. Maybe it does. We're still fresh into it. It was a week ago today when all this was sort of unfolding and we were finding out some of the facts. But how does it manifest itself into the midterms, for example, and into the future? I mean, I know, Josh, that's impossible to know right now, but any theories on that?
Well, look, I think one of the worries, we've talked about this before. When you're the party in power, you're usually going to lose some seats in the House, in the Senate. It's usually going to be, an expectation that you may, Republicans may lose the House because of the narrow majority. That said, I think the worry in Democratic circles about the rise of the extreme left, the fact that there could be primaries where you have extreme type candidates, left-wing candidates emerging in key races. Democrats are trying to do everything that they can to avoid that possibility, but the Zohran Mamdani factor, and the fact that someone like that could win a nomination in a big one of the biggest city in the country, and you're seeing other kind of imitators in key races for both the Senate. Susan Collins' race, for instance, there's a very left-wing Democrat that's getting a lot of online attention, has a whole lot of radical positions. We'll see if he's the nominee, but that's a big warning sign for Democrats. And there are a lot of House races where you have these types of candidates that are emerging. So, I mean, look, I think there's a lot of worry in Democratic circles that they have the fundamentals perhaps on their side just because people are running against Trump and his numbers are down a little bit. But the candidates, if the energy in the party is with the AOC wing, with the Mamdani wing, and you have some really extreme candidates that emerge, and I think there will be, that could cost them some crucial seats in key battlegrounds.
Let me shift gears just a little bit here and ask you about Pam Bondi, because you have a lot of people that are upset on the MAGA side because of the Epstein files situation. And then I seriously take issue with this nonsense that she said a few days ago about going after people for the social media post, because I think that was wrong. And I don't think that's what she said in that moment sounded like someone who would be a Democrat attorney general, not a Republican. So I don't know, Pam Bondi not endearing herself maybe to both sides. Could she potentially be in trouble as attorney general?
No, and Trump views her very favorably. I don't think her comments bothered him at all, even though she did do a little cleanup after the fact. And look, I think it's maybe uncomfortable to say, but there are a lot of folks in that top level of the Trump orbit that have said similar things about going after private charities that have left wing views for their speech. J.D. Vance said that. Stephen Miller said that in the aftermath of Charlie Kirk's assassination. I think Bondi was just an extension of a lot of these, frankly, very abusive government. Conservatives usually want less government. We don't want to hear more government being involved, and we're hearing a lot. We've seen, frankly, in the first year of the Trump administration, second term, a very expansive use of government power. So I didn't hear Donald Trump really criticizing Pam Bondi or even pushing her to walk things back. Obviously, and I think it's encouraging that you saw a lot of voices from across the Republican spectrum speaking out and perhaps pushing her to do so herself. But that is look, it's not just speech issues, it's tariffs, and there's obviously court cases down the pike about whether Trump has a right to impose these very punitive tariffs against our allies. And there's a lot of, obviously, the issue about campuses and how much power the executive branch has in terms of just dictating to private institutions what can be done with some of these are debatable issues, right?
Yep.
But that is where this is coming from, and the fact that you can say that free speech, you're going to crack down on free speech or crack down on hate speech, I should say, someone would feel like that's not a problem to say that is the waters in which this administration is swimming in.
Josh Kraushaar, awesome to hook up with you. It's been just a little bit. I think we can close in a way that can bring us both together in a very sad way. We both cannot wait until baseball season is over because both our teams suck.
Wait till next year. It's been a tough year. You guys were at least kind of on the outskirts of the wild card race. We were out of it
for a while.
Long ago.
Josh is a Nats fan, but dude, it's gotten pretty bad here, with the fans not showing up. And I'm going to the game, I think, on Sunday, but I've only been to like 2 games the entire year, which is very rare. And a lot of fans can say that. I mean, some of it has to do with the team. Some of it has to do with some violence that we have with issues downtown. But yeah, I'm ready to move on. And you say next year for the Cardinals, it might be like 2028 when the next presidential race is happening. We might be competitive. We'll see. Josh, awesome to have you on. Have a great week.
Thanks,
all right,
Mark.
we'll see you.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
Well, if you're just leaving the office, we do have some volume out there on southbound 55, slow pocket south of Arsenal down through Bates, and a real jam on either side of Z tonight in the construction zone there, westbound 6440. That is a slow go, but it's the usual, right? Kings Highway out past McCausland, some pockets at 270. Then you get a break, and it doesn't really line up again until Lake St. Louis Boulevard. 70 westbound fine out of downtown, a little slow at A. And northbound 270, we had an incident reported approaching Olive, still some volume through there. Southbound 170 slowing at 6440, and eastbound traffic is slow there at Big Bend. If you are headed into Illinois, it looks great eastbound, but westbound slowing at 203 due to road work. This report brought to you by Jerry Kelly Heating and Air Conditioning. I'm Sue Thomas with traffic on 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
It's time for a $98 AC tune-up.
Well, you might have been listening a couple nights ago. We had Mike Reynolds from Michael's Flooring Outlet on the air. I had this very, well, maybe not so mysterious issue with my flooring because there was I would call it a crop circle in the middle of my basement floor where I watch television and movies, etc. And it was either the bunny, Oreo, who has gone at the carpet, but I think it was Max the puppy. And I sent Mike Reynolds a picture, and it looked like it was going to be a repair job. And that's what we're going to do. You know, you can pull a little piece from the closet maybe and try to match it up. They have great ability to do that. They can do carpet stretching. Maybe if you have that saggy, baggy look in your carpeting, they can help you out with that as well. But if you need new flooring, whether it's hard flooring or soft flooring, you need experts. You don't need someone who, you know, was working somewhere else a couple of weeks ago and is now working at the big box store, has no experience in the technology. And yes, there is technology because this has gone, just like every other industry, a long way. You buy flooring now, you want it to last, you want it to be, you know, resistant for scratches and pets and kids, depending on your lifestyle. You're going to have different needs. And the team at Michael's Flooring Outlet can guide you through all of this in an expert fashion. They have 3 great locations. They're closed on Sundays, open every other day of the week in Old Town St. Peters, in Darden Prairie, and in Creve Coeur on Olive. The website, IGotFloored.com.
The Martins came over, we were having spaghetti when we suddenly noticed that we started getting sweaty. So we grabbed the keys and we ate it in the van. That's what my friend said, call Cherry Kelly, man, CherryKelly.com. Give him a call even though it's late, CherryKelly.com.
From border security to school choice, the Constitution to the culture war. Made in America. Heard in the Midwest. You're listening to 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Why do the national tax resolution firms need the tiny fine print at the bottom of all their TV ads? Hi, this is Lance Story with the Lance Story Law Firm. You don't hear fast-talking disclaimers in our ads because the claims we make are 100% transparent. The Lance Story Law Firm primarily focuses on one thing, IRS problems, and we're regulated by the Bar Association, and we have a AAA rating with the Better Business Bureau. IRS issues are serious legal issues. The Lance Story Law Firm has helped thousands of clients navigate the best resolution plans, and we tell you up front exactly how much it'll cost. Tax resolution law is all we do. So before you send money to some out-of-town, high-pressure salesperson, give us a call at the Land Story Law Firm, located right here in St. Louis. Call today to schedule your free consultation with me, 314-260-6120, or visit lance.drurylaw.com.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertisements.
You know, September makes me think of football, and they are celebrating at Zero Res. Right now, you can get 3 rooms of carpet clean starting at $129 and take $75 off your air duct cleaning through the end of the month of September. That's great. Of course, you're going to have people over to watch the big game. You want to have the house clean. Call the cleaning heroes at Zero Res to clean up all of those fumble moments you might have in your house. They can clean up the dust, the dander, the bacteria in your carpet from a whole summer full of fun, and then they'll get the yuck out of your air ducts as well. So let them work on your carpet, your tiles, your upholstery, your hardwood. Every surface in your home can be Zero Resified. It is time to give them a call today, 314-474-2020. Tell them you want the 97.1 special. That's 314-474-2020. Schedule your appointment online at ZeroResSTL.com.
This is a special alert to all Americans who own a vehicle with less than 200,000 miles with an auto warranty about to expire or with no warranty coverage at all. Due to a decline in the economy, CarShield is announcing a low-cost month-to-month vehicle protection plan that is now available to the public to save any driver out-of-pocket expenses on future auto repairs. Call now to find out how you can pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. Yes, you heard that correctly. Pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. An open phone line has been established for all drivers to call for a free quick quote. Call 800-908-8646 now. Drivers who are covered will not have to pay for covered repairs again. This protection plan is at an all-time low. Additionally, drivers who activate this vehicle protection today will also receive free roadside assistance, free towing, and car rental options at no additional cost. Call us for your free quick quote today. 800-908-8646. That's 800-908-8646. What do you have to lose? Call 800-908-8646. Again, 800-908-8646.
Sponsored by Progressive Insurance. If you're a renter, make sure you're protected. Renter's insurance includes options that cover stolen property, personal injury, and living expenses if your place is damaged. Quote Renter's Insurance at Progressive.com.
Reardon's back. Smarter talk for the Show Me State. 97.1 FM Talk. St. Louis Conservative.
Playback ready. Now, the audio cut of the day.
Well, I have some huge breaking news this afternoon, and it has to do with this guy who I think is married to a St. Louis woman, Jimmy Kimmel.
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it.
ABC Disney has pulled Jimmy Kimmel's show indefinitely off the air because of his nonsense that he said on his show. Good. I hope he never comes back.
Traffic from the 97.1 FM Talk Traffic Center.
I'll tell you what, it hasn't been a terrible afternoon as far as traffic goes, and we're thinning out nicely. So if you're headed south on 55, some moderate volume headed down toward Bates in the construction zone, but it's still pretty slow approaching Route Z. That's mainly due to road work. Now, we've got westbound 40 lining up, but it's moderate volume approaching Hampton out through McCausland, a little slow at 270 and at Lake St. Louis Boulevard. 70 Jennings Station Road is always a slow go. We had a report of an accident there. And if you are headed into Illinois, now's the time. We look great on the bridges downtown. Southbound 270 in pretty good shape, but northbound lines up approaching Olive. We had a report of an accident there. I'm Sue Thomas with traffic. This is 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Well, tuck pointing is a very, very specific need. And if you have a brick home in the city of St. Louis, you have a